Tucked away inside your nearest Sega Dreamcast, set up in the console's random access memory, there's a bar. A safe haven for guests and information to roam in, share a bit of their time, go about their way, and where audio hiccups never happen. Welcome to Ram on the Rocks. I'm your host, Wayne is Boss, and over here I've got my buddy Tony, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself for the audience.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Hey, and Tony, what's a bit of what you do on the interwebs?
So for those of you who don't know me, I run my own YouTube channel. I've been doing it for about, I think, almost 15 years now, and it's called New to Retro Reviews, and I literally just cover everything that's new to retro, whether it's newer games, older games, and do a lot of live streams, and I got segments on there that I love to do. Like one of the segments that I started last year was the Crazy World of Beat-em-Ups, where I just choose a bunch of beat-em-up games to talk about and like get people educated on like the older ones and like newer ones and maybe some ones that people don't really actually know that actually existed. So it's always a good time over there. And I'm also on another channel for YouTube with my buddies called The Residents of Evil, or Row Network for short. We've been a team for about 9 years now, and we cover everything horror related over there. We're the #1 site for everything Resident Evil, honestly. And yeah, we make fan films. We just get together. We do Toys for Tots. We have live streams, and it's always a good time. We've been doing this for 9 years, and we haven't killed each other yet, so that's always a plus.
Oh man, that's a long time to be collaborating. And I guess speaking of beat 'em ups, did you see the news today?
Yes.
Yeah. That came as a bit of a surprise. The Marvel Maximum Collection, I think it's called.
Yeah, they got like Maximum Carnage in it. They got Separation Anxiety, and of course the classic X-Men arcade game that was re-released years ago on the PS3 and 360. Then it got delisted, and it's never been re-released anywhere else. So I'm stoked because I loved a lot of those old beat 'em ups back then, and my best friend and I, we actually played a ton of Maximum Carnage back in the day. We never beat it because that game is brutally unfair, but it is such a good game. It's also terrible in a lot of ways too, but there's a lot of memories seeing all that because the X-Men one especially, because when me and my buddies would go to the arcade back in the day, we would always go and play the X-Men arcade machine in the back, and we'd all be playing, and we'd be running out of quarters, and our buddy Stick, his little cousin Danny, would be with us, and Danny was like, I think, like 2 or 3 years younger than us, and we would yell at him. We'd be like, Danny, go get the quarters, and he'd be like, but I'm still playing. It's like, Danny, go get the quarters. He's like, but I'm still playing. It's like, Danny, go get the goddamn quarters. And it was like, I mean, that we just did that to him all the time. We'd always, like, he'd never get to play player 2. He was always the third player that never existed.
Yeah.
And or we'd give him like the broken controller or something. Like, we always tortured Danny. We're shocked that he's still friends with us all these years later. But like, that X-Men game was great. It, up to 6 players playing in an arcade and doing it at home at one point with the PS3. It was a crazy time for that kind of stuff. And I love games that have that. I mean, it's just great.
And it's cool too, getting to see a lot of these beat 'em ups, or a lot of these older games that it got delisted just due to like licensing issues or whatever. Like MVC is obviously the big one, but it was like for a little while there, the only way that you were getting new releases of these were through like the arcade 1-up cabinets, or something to that effect. So yeah, it's super cool getting to see this stuff make it back out into the public. I gotta ask, have you ever been to the MagFest convention?
No, I was supposed to go this past year because one of my photographer friends, she's like always wanted to go, and a bunch of our friends were going, and we were gonna go, but it just didn't work out, unfortunately, this year. I had a lot of family stuff, and she had some health issues, so we couldn't go. But I'm really hoping for us to all go next year. That's the big thing I want for next year.
Oh yeah, I try to make it up there every year. I've been going for a while. But there's a little tradition that they have over there, and this started a long time ago when it was a much smaller convention. They always have like the X-Men arcade like cabinet playing over there, and the idea, although it just people just kind of do it unprompted, but the idea was anytime somebody was playing that arcade cabinet somewhere in the convention, if they hit the Colossus like power up, you would get that like, and then everyone at the cabinet would do it, and then the group around them would do it, and it would cause a wave, like a ripple of just the Colossus roar throughout the entire con. Now people just do it whatever, which is kind of not the point, but people are having fun. It's whatever.
That is awesome. Like I love that, because like we all remember that roar from back in the day, and I know for like Anime Boston, I don't know if they still do it, because like I really haven't gone inside the convention in the last like 4 or 5 years, because I'm always just busy outside the con doing photos and everything like that. But there's a thing that got started years ago, like way back in the early 2000s when I started going to this con, and people would just start saying Marco and then Polo, and then like a wave of it would just like wash right over like whatever room you were in. Like if you were in the dealer's room and stuff, people would do it. They stopped doing it in the dealer's room and stuff, in Artist Alley, but they were still mainly doing it all in the hallways where just that echo would carry, and it was like, damn, man. Like, so like that kind of brought that back for me about the Colossus thing.
Yeah, that's fun. I guess to kind of get us back on track, Tony and I have collaborated a little bit before, as he's had me on his podcast in the past. We were talking a bit about Digimon World, which was a very fun time. And I thought, since, he got me over on his channel to talk a little bit about the stuff that I talk the most about on mine, it would be great to have him come over and talk about something that we both enjoy, that's a more his coverage, and maybe talk a little Resident Evil, especially since, at least as this is going up for Patreon, Resident Evil 9 is currently launching.
Yeah, no, it is. We are on it is highly anticipated, and I actually found out something today. I saw it. There is no physical copy of that game available anymore. Like you can't go to like online, like Amazon, GameStop, Target, Walmart. It's all sold out physically everywhere. It's insane. I have never seen this in my history with the franchise. In the 30 years I've been with this franchise, I have never seen this before.
It's really crazy. I mean, I can't think of very many franchises as deserving of such a crazy outcome as that, as Resident Evil. But it's really nuts to see, because I've been noticing that. I've been noticing like people for a while have just been having the roughest time getting their hands on the deluxe edition.
Yep.
That, and apparently like some outlets like Amazon were over ordering their pre-orders and ended up pushing back some pre-orders till like end of March. Like it's nuts, like just the amount of demand there is for this game.
Oh yeah. I it's crazy. To me, I'm just like, wow, like people are really stoked for this. But I mean, I think people really got stoked when Leon first showed up in that trailer for the game, and people, I mean, I was there watching it live with the team. Like people, we all went nuts. We went nuts, and we kind of figured he was going to be in there because it's, going back to Raccoon City. He's like one of the most iconic characters from Raccoon City, so it made kind of sense. And Capcom's been really pushing him and Chris Redfield in recent years for their games. So I felt like, okay, yeah, this is going to be very well. But it's crazy because from what I also found out, it's not a spoiler or anything like that. It's a ranking, but I guess this is the highest rated Resident Evil in the mainline series. And to me, that's insane, but also it's not too far-fetched because gaming has evolved so much from what it was in the 90s, where like not everybody was playing games. Now everybody and their grandmother plays video games. And
yeah.
And now, so like you've got more eyes on these games, and you're gonna sell more numbers than you did before with your original ones. Like Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, like those sold really well back in the day, but the sales numbers these days are blowing them out of the water. I mean, obviously because of the pricing difference and everything like that, because like CDs were, a little cheaper back then, and from cartridge, and now like they use Blu-rays or 4Ks or whatever the disc is. So it's like, yeah, they gotta charge the price they charge, even though I personally don't think that a lot of games are worth $70. This game, I feel, Capcom has proven that their games are generally worth $70 in this new era. But for a lot of other companies, no.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna be honest. It's a hard sell for me to drop like 70 bones on a Mario Tennis game. I don't care whether you have a 4-hour campaign in it or not. Like but with something like Resident Evil, when that's something that's like, you see the amount of production value that goes into these titles, and you see how much Capcom really pours into that work, and then on top of it's just like, man, those games are just built to be played over and over, so you're getting your money's worth.
Oh yeah, I think out of the newer games, I think 7 probably has the lowest replay value.
Sure, yeah,
but 7 also has some of the best DLC they've ever given in any Resident Evil game. So it was kind of like, well, it might not be high in replay value, but at least the DLC stuff and everything is really interesting and entertaining.
Yeah. It's been cool to see, and I feel like it's so. For a little bit of context, we had a conversation like almost a week ago, and we recorded like 2.5 hours worth of podcast, and I was looking over the footage and realized, shoot, I didn't record any of Tony's voiceover that entire time. So we're kind of going back over some stuff here today, but I was saying on that last time we were chatting, I was just like, I personally enjoy Resident Evil 7 quite a bit, but then again, maybe there's something to be said for the fact that I don't think I've gone back to replay that since it launched. I have, however, felt the urge to go back and replay like 8, which, I wouldn't exactly put as like, the top game of the series, but I sure do like it.
Yeah, Village is good. I enjoy it because they kind of went back to their cheesy, wacky roots, even though 7 did have that still with the Baker family and everything. There was a lot of cheese in that, but Village kind of had that. Village had that cheese with its villains, its characters, the interactions that they did, the Duke, the Lords and everything, Mother Miranda and her children. There was a lot to really love about Village. I mean, just like the atmosphere alone of Village, when you're in the village area itself, out in the snow, or in Lady Dimitrescu's castle, it's like some of the best in the game. And of course, the spooky dollhouse and everything like that too. That scared the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, and it's like I was talking about before too, is that I'm just like, I'm a sucker for everything they were doing with just that type of environment. I love snow in video games. I love snow, and I love like towns or locations that are just like set by the water. So like that boss fight with like the guy in like the swamp, I forget what his name was.
Oh, Monroe.
Yeah. Like that kind of stuff just does it for me. So I was hooked just on the atmosphere of that game.
Atmosphere has always played a big part in the identity of Resident Evil. Some games, it doesn't feel like it, and some games really nail it. Like a lot of people, when they played Resident Evil 4 back in the day, like the OG GameCube one, it was clearly more action oriented. But if you really go and you play through that beginning area, and even the castle area too, the atmosphere of horror is all around. Like it's the wind, it's the clouds rolling by above you in an overcast sky. It's just the feeling that you're being watched out there in the woods, which at one point you realize you are, because when you turn the camera the right way on the bridge, you see a bunch of guys staring at you, and it's like, oh shit. Like, and it's so like, and they do the horror part really good. You go back to the village at one point later in the game, and it's nighttime, it's raining, it's got lightning, and there's bear traps on the ground, and the glowing eyes of the Ganados are everywhere. So, every Resident Evil game has its level of fear and atmosphere, whether it comes from a combination of just really good lighting, or in the case of, I think, something like Resident Evil 1, it has very good music. Like, it's like, that deep cello music as you're walking through the mansion and stuff, and how just like you feel like that it's just that creeping feeling that something's behind you. And I think that, again, atmosphere just plays a big part in these games. And I think Capcom, if anything, when it comes to anything they've done, is really nail that atmosphere.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of gets into a question. I suppose for you, what is it like about this series? Like, what are the things that keep bringing you back? The elements that are the most important that you look for from game to game?
For me personally, it's really how good is your gameplay, how good is your replay value, and then the characters, because the characters have been around. This is a 30-year franchise at this point, and there's been a lot of characters that people love and they keep returning, and then others don't get to come back as often. And if you're still talking about certain characters, years after they've only made one appearance, that you've done something right, because with like best case example, everybody wants Sheva Alomar to come back from Resident Evil 5.
Yeah,
she hasn't been in the game since that was the only game that she was ever in, aside from like that like the mobile game that just came out recently and stuff like that, but that don't really count. But like, it's great, and I think it also helps that a lot of these actors in this day and age keep these characters alive. But those are the really big things that I look for in Resident Evil, and like what brings me back is the characters, your gameplay, replay value. And for the most part, virtually every Resident Evil has really good replay value, except for games like Code Veronica, Resident Evil Dead Aim, Survivor. Those ones don't really have as much good replay value. Code Veronica, I always thought was like a very experimental game for being on the first game that was made off the PlayStation 1, actually. And the Dreamcast was really a good fit for it, which I kind of wish we got more newer entries. I mean, we got ports of 2 and 3 on the Dreamcast, but yeah, it's just those characters and gameplay and replay. I love them. I gotta have them. And for some people, it is definitely, of course, the horror element and everything like that. Horror does play a good part of what has made these games so great, because like, when you've got something that's around for 30 years and you see the evolution of it and see where it starts, people are like, well, it's not scary. Like, those old games aren't scary. It's like, yeah, maybe not now to you guys because you grew up in a different era where you're either desensitized or you were watching a lot of other stuff that made you realize, like, you got scared early. But for a lot of people, Resident Evil was unlike anything that was ever done before. I mean, yeah, people say like, well, there was Alone in the Dark, and very true, there was. But Alone in the Dark wasn't nearly as scary as what the original Resident Evil was, because I was there playing the first game, and that scared me more than any horror movie I had ever been forced to watch when I was a kid. So, like, the fear is real with those games. It's just, you just gotta look at the time periods and when they came out and try to put yourself in the people's shoes. It's kind of like when you watch like an old movie from like the 1950s, like an old horror movie from the 50s, and people are like, how is this scary? This isn't that scary. It's like, dude, for people back then, the 1950s was a very different time in the human race compared to what it is now. Nobody really knew anything. People were still believing like the devil lived next door to you or something, or like a lot of crazy stuff like that back then that obviously people don't really take much stock in now, but where it was kind of an infancy for humans, even though they were evolving. That's kind of the charm of those old games and old movies, I feel.
Yeah, because I remember we were having a great discussion about that, of just like the craft of it, and just sometimes being able to see the seams and being able to see like how it was put together is enjoyable in and of itself. Where okay, so this is fun. Today I went to go grab a sandwich for lunch, and I was just kind of like waiting in line, and the guy making the sandwiches was talking with another customer, and the customer asked him if he was going to be picking up Resident Evil 9. And dude was just like, nah, not really my kind of game. I like my multiplayer stuff, yada, yada, yada. And he's just like, also, I just like good stories. And dude was like, what do you mean? Do you not think Resident Evil has those? And he's like, no, it's not realistic. And if I want stories that are realistic. And he's just like, what are you talking about? Do you like God of War? He's like, yeah, I love God of War. He's like, what's realistic about that? And it's just this very funny back and forth. But, to me, it's just like, I get having the preference, but I don't understand like I don't know, this like really overzealous reliance on realism as a like denoting quality. It feels like a fallacy to me. Yeah. And I like being able to go in and just like, I don't need to believe one-to-one it's real. I just want to see somebody craft something and see people make a world so that I want to explore and be in. I don't have to believe it could exist in the real world. It's just being able to kind of be in this place of passion put together by talented artists and coders and developers and what have you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we just want to see people create, and like, I mean, it's like you said, like, yeah, the guy loves God of War, and it's just like, that's not real.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a great way to come back at that and everything. I'm glad he had that loaded for you to be like, yeah, well, dude, like, God of War is not really real now, is it?
yeah.
Realistic.
And it's just like, and again, it's just preferences and all that. There's only so much to say, but I don't know. I think that people put a little too much stock in realism as the only mark of quality and stuff, and it's why we often see a lot of projects kind of get pushed to the wayside, as it were, for not fitting within that realm.
Yeah.
But I agree with a lot of that. For me, like, I really enjoy the replayability of it. I enjoy just mechanically, those are very sound games, and I enjoy just how well, like, combat comes together and everything, how much they put you in these situations where it's just like you have to actually think about the fact or think about whether it would be best to fight in this scenario or run away. And it's not just mindlessly killing every enemy you see. A lot of the time it's just like, okay, when is avoidance gonna benefit me more than putting this thing down? That and just like the puzzle element, the structure of it. I'm also a big Metroid guy, and the structure of those games actually reminds me a lot of the time of like a good Metroid title.
There's actually, there's a lot of similarities to that. I can actually see that.
Yeah, it's just kind of that progression system of just like slowly getting more and more powerful over the course of the game, and like the better that you, the deeper in you go, the more dangerous things get, but the more equipped you are to deal with the threat at hand. And I love that sort of thing. That and Super Metroid is kind of the closest thing, or not just Super Metroid, but Metroid in general, kind of the closest thing Nintendo's got to a horror franchise. So,
yep, I've been saying that for years, especially when it was like kind of like a thing to me where I played Fusion back in the day on the Game Boy Advance, and I'm like, this is it. This thing is a survival horror game. Like, I'm just like, wow. And then like I really started thinking about it. I'm like, man, Super Metroid's kind of a horror game too, and like honestly, like even like the earlier games, like they're all like a lot of horror in a lot of ways. And I mean, Super Metroid, I mean, you literally have a haunted ship. Like, well, that's like one of my favorite areas too.
Well, that's like you were talking about, like the creepy elements in, like Resident Evil 4 and stuff, and it was making me think of there's a moment in Super Metroid when you first land on Zebes, and you go down to Old Brinstar, like where the original game was. You pick up the morph ball right where it used to be, and then suddenly the statues just turn to stare at you, and a camera like comes on to track your movements. Like those creepy little moments like that. God, it's so good. It's not like in your face. It's almost like trying to suffocate you in this idea that you are being threatened by something.
No, 100%. Like you feel like something's watching you the whole time, and in a way, technically, I think like that spotlight that hits you, I think that's supposed to be like a security camera, like Mother Brain watching you from like where she is on the planet and stuff, which is insane. So like it does, like the way like they're designed and the music in that, I mean, it's great. But then like you get to like areas like the water level, or like when you use the power bomb to break open that water, and then like you're going through that area and you're just kind of running through the water and all that stuff, and you're just like, damn, man, like this is peaceful. Like and then like because I had replayed Super Metroid for its I think it was like the 25th anniversary of the game or the 30th anniversary of it for a review on my channel. And I remember when I was playing through that part, and I got stuck there for a while, and I was just like, I was too lazy to look up a guide, so I was trying to figure it out on my own, like the old days. And I'm standing there, I'm like, yeah, it does. It feels like this is calming. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in I'm in a Resident Evil save room. Like, this is what this is.
Yeah.
Like, it was like Metroid's always had like really great music and everything like that. And again, music plays a really big part in a lot of horror games. And I think for the horror elements that do exist in like Super Metroid and Fusion and even some of the other games out there, it's just what makes these things very memorable.
Yeah, and it's like I think another thing that I've always kind of like looked at those two for too is like they were both kind of not riffing but just kind of like taking inspiration from tried and true tropes in horror, where especially like film. So, you know, the Metroid series very clearly inspired by Ridley Scott's Alien and that whole universe. Whereas you know, Resident Evil, I'm sure had like a plethora of different ideas that it was kind of like taking inspiration from. I've never had an issue with that. I made a video about Snatcher recently, and I've had a weird amount of comments of people that were just like, "Oh, so this is just a like shot for shot like rip off of Blade Runner." And in my mind, I'm like, when was the last time you saw Blade Runner? They've got a similar setup, sure, but like they're not that similar in terms of plot. But I think something that was always cool about those franchises too was kind of taking in a lot of horror movies, especially slashers and stuff like that, you have this this old concept of like, you know, the final girl that kind of makes it out in the end and is going against the main villain, whereas both Metroid and Resident Evil had like, you know, like a pretty prominent female lead, not to denote Chris, of course, but in my mind, when I think of like a main character of Resident Evil 1, I always think of Jill.
Oh, 100%. I mean, she was like the face because she was the easy mode, and that's the character that a lot of people played as. And I think also it was because you could play as a female character, which in gaming didn't really happen like quite that often. And she was like the main character because, I mean, aside from, again, Samus, you didn't really get that often. So, and she was also the game's easy mode and everything.
Yeah.
So that also was good. But I mean, it's funny, they say she's easy mode, but she actually gets damage. She can't take damage worth of shit. She gets like really messed up by this. I mean, one zombie bite in this game mainly can get you into the yellow caution already, but no, like just like her as a character was great. And the way that they set these games up, and like you said, like they were taking from things obviously. And funny enough, Shinji Mikami, the guy who like essentially like spearheaded this whole thing and everything with the other guy, he didn't want to do this game originally because he gets scared easily. And he didn't think he'd be he didn't think he'd be a good fit, but they said, no, that's why you need to work on this. You're going to be a great fit for this because of that.
Yeah.
And they were right. I mean, why wouldn't you hire someone on what they find scary? Unless, like, you know, like they got like a fear of like teddy bears or something like that, or they got like a fear of the sun or something.
Sure. Yeah, that's fun. Was he involved with, because I feel like, especially if we're talking about the inception of Resident Evil, we'd be remiss not to mention Sweet Home. Was he involved with the creation of that?
I don't think he was, but he was brought, I think, if I remember correctly, I think the guy who worked on Sweet Home originally was the one who penned the remake, because Sweet Home used to be, was originally supposed to be, Resident Evil 1 was supposed to be a Sweet Home remake, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think that's what I always heard, was that it was like a new take on the idea behind that game. Yeah, and then like they changed it and everything, but it was just something that I'm trying to remember. I don't think Shinji Mikami worked on that, because that technically was in '89. Okay. That game released, but it was the guy who worked on it, I'm trying to remember his name. Fujiwara, that was his name. Yeah. He was mainly known for a lot of stuff in the company because he was the director of Sweet Home. But his works eventually extended to doing a lot of stuff like on the Ghost and Goblin series, all through those, Bionic Commando,
He was a producer for like Mega Man 2, advisor for Strider, if I remember correctly. I remember, what was the other one that kind of caught me by surprise that he was producer? DuckTales. Like DuckTales and Sweet Home were actually the two. Because he was the producer of DuckTales and director right after for Sweet Home in that same year. And like I said, he worked on a bunch of other stuff. All the little Capcom games that came out, like Chip and Dale's, Rescue Rangers. They had the Little Nemo, the Dream Master, Mega Man 3. He's been a part of Capcom. Like, he was in all the major projects throughout the years.
Yeah, that's a crazy resume.
Yeah, and he stayed on for Resident Evil 1. That was the only one that he was involved with. Was he a producer or general producer? Like, he works side by side with Shinji. That much I remember.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, like, that's a guy that had a really extensive history with Capcom throughout those years before he left. Technically the last game he did was that Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection back in 2022, I think it was.
Is that the PSP one?
No, Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection was the full-on remake for the Nintendo Switch. It was a complete remake of the game. People weren't really happy with it for whatever reason. I don't know why. I played it and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh man.
But for whatever reason, people just didn't really like it that much. But he knew his stuff back in the day. He really did.
Okay. Oh dang! Like, yeah, no, incredible line of work there. It's crazy to think like just how influential Capcom really has always been. Like the amount of projects that they've had in their catalog.
Oh yeah, from the own games that they've created to all the licensed games that they created. Disney and Capcom went together perfectly back in the day. Like all the games that they were making, like Aladdin for the Super Nintendo, like I said, DuckTales 1 and 2, those were great. Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck was really good. And then of course Little Nemo the Dream Master, I love that game because my cousins and I played it all the time when we were little kids, and I actually have that version, that cartridge on my wall. When my cousins weren't using their Nintendo anymore, I got it. So I still have it. It still works, and my God, that game. The best way I can describe it, it's Mega Man in pajamas. If you take like the old NES Mega Man and put him next to Nemo, it's literally the same guy. It's just Mega Man without his helmet and wearing pajamas. That's all it is. And it's a hard game. It's a hard game, but not one that a lot of people remember, because it's from like an old comic strip, I think from like the 1930s from Winsor McKay, if I remember correctly. Actually, that was one of the earliest reviews I did for my channel back then.
Well, that's I want to say that property also wound up entering public domains. We actually, I think over the recent years, we've seen sort of an influx in like indie projects kind of based on that.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that they were largely people that played like that NES game back in the day as well.
Yeah, it was a good one. I enjoy it. I mean, like I said, hard as hell. It's one of the hardest Capcom games I've ever played. And I was like, this was not made for children. This was made by a sadist.
That's it is cool though that it's just like it's impressive enough that they had so much under their belt, but how well received so much of it was. Like the ratio of like people look back on that Aladdin game and that like I've never played the DuckTales the Darkwing Duck game as a kid. I loved the cartoon when I was a child. Like I was obsessed with that, but I've not played the game. But people talk about all these games like super fondly, and it's just crazy that they were pumping them all out that fast, and for them to all have like ended up not shit is impressive, especially for that era.
I mean, yeah, now that you talk about that, it's true. Like Capcom was firing on all fronts, because like people also gotta remember, like they did a lot of arcade games too. Like Capcom and Konami were like some of the biggest in the arcade scene back in the day. And to be fair, both those companies, in my opinion, are the reasons why systems like the original Nintendo and the Super Nintendo sold as well as they did. Because when those companies worked on a game for those systems, they just came out fantastic. And I look at it, I mean, yeah, dude, if you have not played the DuckTales game, you gotta do it. You gotta dive into that, man, because I mean the original NES one, it's got its charm to it. It's charming. It's a short game, but the DuckTales remastered, which I don't know why they call it remastered, because it's a full-on remake. They rebuilt that thing from the ground up. But that is one of the greatest remakes I've ever played in my life, because they actually got the original 1987 DuckTales cast to come back and do the voices again.
Yeah, that's awesome. Was the new DuckTales series like airing around? No, that would have been way too early for that. DuckTales got rebooted, I believe it was like 2017, 2018, where DuckTales Remastered, I think, came out in 2011, I believe. Okay, yeah. Because I remember reading about DuckTales Remastered in like an issue of like Game Informer or something at one point back in the day, and people were just raving about how good it was. Funnily enough, I still remember when Shovel Knight came out, and you know he's got that like downward like pogo move with the shovel. Everybody was talking about it. It's like, oh, like DuckTales, and the developers were like, no, it's we were actually trying to do Zelda 2, but sure, DuckTales 2, I guess.
Yep, I remember that. I mean, like they took from everything, you know, like they took from everything to make Shovel Knight. And to be honest, as much as they took from other games, it was okay, because when you play Shovel Knight, it's its own game.
Oh yeah,
like you see the beauty of that game, and you see the references and like, you know, everything in between that it is from other games, but it's still molded into its own. And I've always loved Shovel Knight for that. I always thought it was like one of the greatest games to come out shortly after it did. I'm like, this is just such a great game. I'm a huge Shovel Knight fan, so.
Oh, brother, I could rave about Shovel Knight. That game's amazing. That's one that, like, funnily enough, I think for the longest time on my channel, I had like a little intro sequence, and the piece of music that I had playing along with it was like it was a remix from Game Chops. James Ladino did a remix of High Above the Lands, the Propeller Knight stage theme.
Oh, hell yeah.
And it's fantastic. Great piece of music. I love that remix to pieces. And I was essentially using it as my main theme for a while. And then eventually I was just like, you know, I know they say that you could use their music for like commercial use or whatever, but this still doesn't feel right to just adopt this as like a main theme without like express permission to do so. So I just kind of dropped it. But Shovel Knight has been like, at least on some level, like a part of my channel's identity since I started.
Totally get that. Yep.
Yeah, a little bit of a long walk for a drink of water there. But yeah, no, like Capcom has just like they left a huge footprint in the industry, and I think they've tackled just about every genre they can. And there's just something about Resident Evil that was the amount of games that tried to do what that game was doing. Which actually, it's cool too that like it inspired so much, even though a lot of those titles wound up just kind of like springing off into something else entirely. I mean, you look at Silent Hill, which was Konami trying to make their own Resident Evil, and then that became like something very much its own. Even like certain attempts at making a fourth Resident Evil game sprang forward like entirely new franchises.
Yeah, you got Devil May Cry out of that, and Onimusha.
Onimusha is the really interesting one to me, because I'm just like, it's so cool that something that you really wouldn't guess that had any ties to Resident Evil at all, but like when you look at the history, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, it was gonna be weird if they went the route that they did with that originally. That's for sure. I mean, Resident Evil may have been a different game, even though that was supposed to be obviously set back in the past and stuff, and Umbrella was there for some reason. Like they were a company all the way back then, which didn't make sense because they already established that Japan. What was it? No, not Japan. it was already established in like Umbrella was already established, I think, in like the 70s or something like that.
What was yeah, you would know better than I would. I just remember there being a moment in Resident Evil 8, like at the end, where they just kind of like drop a little piece of lore where they're just like, oh yeah, Umbrella was connected to this location somehow.
Oh yeah. So yeah, at one point, Chris ends up, you're playing Chris's mission, and you're destroying all the like the monsters and everything like that are in the that are in the village and wiping them out, and you got a fucking satellite laser to take the big guys out and stuff, which was crazy.
Yeah.
And then you eventually go to the area where the real Mia is being held captured, and Chris starts looking around, and the Umbrella symbols are starting to appear everywhere, and he's like, what the hell? So you see where Spencer got the idea for the Umbrella logo was from that area where Mother Miranda was, her lab, because if I remember the story correctly, Spencer was on an expedition and he got lost in the snow or something like that. He got hurt, and Mother Miranda saved him, and they became colleagues. He was fascinated with like what she was trying to do, but it wasn't ultimately his idea what he wanted to do for himself. And a lot of people seem to hate that. They said that they were just throwing the lore in there, and I'm like, well, isn't it? It's not too far-fetched. I mean, Spencer and Ashford and Marcus, they all were going around the world until they found the flower that gave birth to essentially the T-virus in Africa. So I didn't think it was too far-fetched, honestly. I thought it was kind of a cool little thing. Didn't really add up to much and everything, but I thought it was a cool little thing.
That's fair. I think that was for me. I was just like, I think it was because it just kind of popped up at the tail end. I was hit with a little bit of a feeling of, oh, cool, and like why am I just learning about this right now, sort of thing. Although, you know, they could very well like go to expand on that later on in the future.
Knowing how they handle Resident Evil games, probably not. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Resident Evil, but its biggest weakness has always been never connecting the stories properly. They have this weird problem trying to get games to be connected. Like, obviously, Resident Evil 2 from Resident Evil 1 is not that heavily connected, aside from Claire being Chris's sister, and, you know, the fact that Umbrella had the accident down in the lab, because when they went to go get the G-Virus samples, Birkin fought them. He ended up dying, and when the case from all the G-Virus and T-Virus got loose and everything, when it got broken from the suitcase, you had the rats eating it. So the rats infected the water and all that stuff, and that's how a lot of people in Raccoon City got sick. So, you know, there wasn't really much story there, and you didn't really find out that much other than Umbrella has deep pockets. It wasn't just Umbrella's mansion. That Spencer mansion wasn't just belonging to Umbrella. They had a full-on biolab on the grounds. And then the sequel, a little touch here and there about how deep the pockets of Umbrella go, and the police chief being in their grass. I think the mayor was too. But Umbrella had fingers everywhere, and that just kind of worked on a base level. But certain games later on would introduce things and then completely drop them. And a lot of fans have always kind of wanted, like, Resident Evil Revelations 2 to get that proper continuation, because they left it on a pretty big cliffhanger. And so Resident Evil's, like, I think that is its biggest weakness, is the fact that they really don't connect a lot of the newer stories as much anymore.
Yeah, and that's because that one is a bit of a blind spot for me, because we were talking about it last time, but I haven't gotten a chance to play through Revelations 2. Although you were singing some pretty high praises about it, so it does feel like one I ought to get to.
Oh yeah, no, I don't like when they throw Easter eggs into things just to be Easter eggs, and everybody can just be like, oh look, they said the thing, or this is from this, and they found a way to weave the story of Revelations 2 into the past. There's a lot of things that happen on the island and stuff that they talk about, and it connects to other games. There's some connections to Revelations 1. There's stuff connecting to RE5. There's stuff connecting to Resident Evil 1, and I believe there's stuff connecting to Resident Evil 2 in some small fashion. But there's a lot of Easter eggs that seem just to fit, and it feels like this game is celebrating what this game has, what this franchise has kind of created in 30 years almost. I mean, at the time, I think the franchise was only around for like 21 years, but regardless, because I mean, that game's kind of old now, but it really does do a lot for the fans. I mean, aside from the no co-op thing, you can only do couch co-op. You can't actually do real co-op online. It only works with a person next to you, but...
Which that's an odd choice.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. So I also feel that was that era where, yeah, sure, we'll give you the option to play with someone, but, you know, it's gonna be difficult. And then they, you know, then like they did, what's the one? Operation Raccoon City. They didn't let you do the couch co-op. They took it away completely. And a lot of games were doing that back in the day. I think one of the first ones was technically Halo 4 for the Xbox 360. All my buddies were so pissed off that they had to go buy an Xbox 360 to play, you know, Halo with us. Like they would all come over to my house with their Xboxes and we'd play, because you couldn't play 4-player split screen, or was 4 the one that did that? I can't remember exactly. Maybe I'm misremembering that.
I remember
there was games that pushed that instead of the good old couch co-op.
I remember, I want to say it was 5, because I had a friend that was really pissed that that Halo 5 did away with couch co-op. Because I think, yeah, that was the one where it's just like, oh, they're splitting it between like the Master Chief and like John Locke, and them both like kind of hunting each other. It kind of seemed like, like personally, I don't mind like having a certain emphasis of storytelling in games, but I think if it comes at an expense, the expense of the gameplay experience, that's when it starts becoming a problem. Unless you're an insane person like Hideo Kojima or somebody like Yoko Taro that could just make it work. But with something like that, it's just like, I feel like couch co-op and being able to like run through the campaign of a Halo game is so heavily ingrained within the identity of that franchise that it just really feels like you're shooting the franchise in the foot when you take that out.
Yeah.
It would be cool to see, like, because I'm not familiar with exactly what sort of like plot threads they leave undone at the end of Revelations 2. I do need to play through that one, though. It just is a shame that it's like, that does seem like it would be fun to get together with a friend to play that with, but I could just play it solo. That's fine. I've got the digital version I can boot up on my Switch too at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got that option right there at least.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, I'll get that one under my belt, because my first Resident Evil was Resident Evil 1. Resident Evil Revelations 1, and I love that game a lot. I know some people have more issues with it these days, but I'll always love that one. You can't take that one away from me.
No, exactly. I agree.
Yeah. I guess though, it's just like like we've kind of got over just like what it is about the franchise that you really enjoy the most. And part of the discussion that we were having during our first session together was just kind of talking about the state of the franchise when it comes to the newer entries, the older entries, the entries in between, and how much of that is made up of remakes or, you know, recreations of those experiences. What is your take on just kind of the evolution of the franchise and the way these experiences are kind of revisited?
Try to explain that to me one more time. I just want to like get like I don't want to mess this up.
Oh no, you're good. I guess to simplify the question a little bit, what is your take on just like the state of the remakes for the game specifically? Like, what is your feeling about them, and on top of that, how do you feel about the way that a lot of fans kind of responds to it as a means of replacement of the original games versus a reimagining or supplementary?
Okay, this is good. I was like, I just want to make sure. I was like, I'm gonna ask him again, because like I really want to air this, because like whenever it's like RE2 like or like the remakes, a lot of people get super protective because these are like their first Resident Evil games. But a lot of old school fans don't mind the newer games. Resident Evil, even like Resident Evil 3 Remake, it's a bad remake, but a great horror game, and it's a great Resident Evil game. It's just, they kind of cut way too much out of that game, and a lot of fans were not happy about that. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of stuff from Resident Evil 2 got cut as well. So
yeah,
I think the discourse and a lot of people were being a little disappointed is very valid, but a lot of other people, they think they're like, these games are the greatest thing, but then you realize if you played the originals, you're actually getting sold a smaller product in a lot of ways. It's like I said, but for the most part, like the remakes still garner a lot of love from people. I mean, as someone who's an older fan, I actually really like them. Yeah, I like 2 and 3 Remake. I think they're really fun. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of discourse about them. A lot of people aren't like happy that if you like if you don't like the newer games. And I've told people, it's like, hey, like I don't really like 7 and Village that much, but I still respect them. They did really good.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like something that I think gets lost in a lot of online discourse these days is I don't want to make too much of a thing out of it because it starts to sound like making like untargeted attacks at people, but I do think that people often lack a bit of nuance and can be a bit reactionary when responding to these things about every little change, every little thing that is even slightly different is a sin against the original creative intent, this, that, or the other. Like, maybe there's a discussion to be had there, sure, but a lot of people are just very all or nothing.
Yeah, it's like, we talked about this because, yeah, like there was some discourse on Twitter a while ago, like about like a week or two ago, and it was bad because people were trashing the older games. They wouldn't even give them a try, and I'd be trying to educate people like I do with my videos and stuff, and I try to explain to people, it's like, hey, the old ways work just fine. Just because the graphics are old doesn't mean the controls are bad. Like, these are games that actually do very well once you learn them. It takes you maybe about 20-30 minutes to really get it down if you've never played them before, but that's time and care that you're going to want. Where the remakes, they just cut so much stuff out, and the originals are better in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Not that the remakes don't have their strong points either, but a lot of people are saying it's just like, oh, like he won't play the newer games. It's like, dude, I play all the new games. I play them all because I'm going to talk about them. I got to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And, Resident Evil 4, and then when it comes to something like Resident Evil 4 Remake, I think that's better than the original, which a lot of people are like, what? And I was like, yeah, I had way more fun with this than I did, because OGRE4, I do love that village section. It's really great, but I'm also not the biggest fan of like the underground minecart area for a while. You're through those catacombs, and that just kind of got a little off for me. And then the island itself is its own issue, that military island. But ultimately, I think people just need to go back and play the classics for a reason. Really just kind of discover them and like why people really enjoyed playing these characters back in the day. Like why they loved just playing. I think things like that is where if people are willing to open their mind and just kind of look at the bigger picture, especially when people aren't like, ripping at each other's throats, I think a lot can be accomplished.
Yeah, and I've been noticing it's just like it's like there's a lot of room to just be having really interesting discussions there, and kind of seeing these different perspectives on these things, and especially where people have approached these games in different ways at different time periods. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of people getting really up in arms about Xenoblade right now, and that makes me sad because I kind of thought this was a safe zone, and I'm just realizing that there was a section of the divided fan base that I hadn't really been introduced to yet, and unfortunately, I've been introduced to them now, and it's just a little tiring that no franchise is safe from this sort of thing.
It's really true. It also depends like where you hang out, because like, thankfully, things like Blue Sky, you don't really run into that, thankfully.
Blue Sky has been nicer. It's like with Xenoblade and everything. I was just like, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I adore Xenoblade Chronicles X a lot. I especially adore the new chapter that was added to the Switch version that released last year. And turns out I'm kind of in the minority. A lot of people really did not like it and were not satisfied with it. And I'm just like, I'm desperate to try to get my thoughts out there about it and just be like, no, this is actually really awesome. And this is like a great translation of a lot of themes that Takahashi's been toying with, since Xenogears. But it's hard to kind of get into the spaces to talk about all of that, especially when people's minds are made up, and it's hard to talk about it without spoiling it for people that haven't experienced it yet. And everybody feels super strongly about their stance on it, which I'm no exception. I feel strongly too, but I want to be able to at least voice that without immediately being shot down. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's fandom culture. It's just part of the territory. It's something that we just have to sort of come to expect. Expect for better or worse.
Probably be the nicest guy possible and everything. And I mean, you're not going to be able to change people's minds, but at least you can probably calm them down.
Oh yeah. And it's like, and that's the thing too. Is like, it's supposed to be a discussion. It's not supposed to be about just like one person or the other having their way be accepted as the right one. Because that's not really like a healthy way to look at that mindset either. But I'm rambling a little bit. I kind of lost sight of what my point was. But yeah, when it comes to like the discussion of remakes and stuff with Resident Evil, I see a lot of people still kind of going back and forth about whether or not the new games are valid, or if there's even a point to go back and play the old ones, which that always leaves a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I personally really enjoy the remakes. I even enjoy 3-make quite a bit. But like, the old ones still exist and the old ones still matter.
Very true, they do. A lot of that stuff is still around though, you know?
Yeah. I wish, because like, you can go and you can get the HD remaster of like the Resident Evil 1 remake on Switch and stuff. Not so much for like, there's no way to get like the OG 2 or 3 or anything on there. That I find to be a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, get like access to these older games are important in a lot of ways, and Resident Evil does have games that are locked to like their systems. I mean, Survivor and Dead Aim and Outbreak are literally locked to PS1 and PS2, and all the other games have been on everything at this point. But still, like the biggest platforms you'd think would have them.
Yeah, and it's like we've seen a bit of progress within that area. I think the original games are available through GOG, so like there are avenues to get these, and I think they recently added the Dino Crisis game, or was it just the first one? I think it was just the first Dino Crisis. I could be wrong though. I think it might have been both. And it's just like, at least that's an avenue, but it's like I don't know. Preservation for games is a weird, murky place, and it feels like it's more difficult to get it like nailed down there than it is like any other medium.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But I guess I kind of like we were talking about too. How far back does that go for you when it comes to? Okay, so a fan, like I would personally, if somebody was to ask me where to start with Resident Evil, I would probably tell them the remake of 1. Which I feel like is a safe place to just kind of like get started with that. If you're looking for something a little bit more modern, maybe I would say the remake of 2. Just because I think that's a super easy game for pretty much anybody to just like get into, just pick up and play. What would your recommendation be? Like, where would you tell somebody to start if they had never played Resident Evil before?
That's easy. I tell them to start at the beginning, not because like I'm a big fan of the originals and stuff, but it's like I said earlier, it's a series that's been around for 30 years, and you're probably gonna want people to, see what it was like back then, get real feedback from real people, and not just people on the internet that think these games were always terrible. And it's just like, dude, you're only 21 years old. Shut the fuck up and get away from me. Like, it's like there's a reason why the originals are still so beloved to this day and age.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that they go and they try those out because they're definitely harder because Resident Evil kind of holds your hand now, starting with RE4. But you want a challenge. Things like Resident Evil 0 and what was the other one? There was one other one that was a real challenge. Zero and Code Veronica. Those ones were a big challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah,
they're not easy to speed either.
And it's like I don't want to like talk down to people like too much, but there is definitely a sense of like, it definitely does feel like today it's like if people aren't immediately able to get in and just start like progressing with stuff, they just kind of like turn it away.
Oh yeah.
It seems like stuff gets shot down so easily now, which is just a damn shame. Like maybe that first Resident Evil game does take a little bit of time to just kind of like get into. I know that was one where my first playthrough was a lot longer than any of my other playthroughs were, because like I feel like there's a lot to learn there, but not in a bad way.
No, I agree, because the problem is like a lot of people just want their handheld with video games these days, and a lot of these newer games do it. I mean, every new Resident Evil game is almost impossible to get lost in because you essentially know where you're supposed to go at all times. But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just I don't know. I'm just glad we're getting these games like these older ones, and I'm glad when people drop the restraints and like they finally try them, because like I actually have a small story from 2016. They had the remaster come out for the PlayStation 4, and I think it came out on everything else at that point too. But when that game came out, people were, how do I put this? People were against that game because people kept wanting to play Resident Evil 4, because Resident Evil 4 was like the first step. Like there's technically kind of three big entries into the world of survival horror for Resident Evil, and the earlier games are the ones that most people started with, and then even more people came along and joined during RE2 because RE2 was so popular. So Code Veronica, yeah, it's infamous. But I want people to give these things a shot, because all these naysayers would not touch the remaster back in 2016. And then people found out they had the analog control option, and everybody's like, oh, wait, what? And then they started learning. They were playing the game, but they were still like learning. And I remember people coming back to those comments years later and telling me, it's like, hey, like I actually did try out, like changing the control style and everything, and it really worked. Thank you for letting us know. Like, this is great. And that's kind of what it's about. Like, you play those classics, you get a big respect, and you get a lot of credit with people that know the original stuff from like what it started as,
Yeah. And I feel like it's worth it too, especially with we saw so much progress with just how games are developed and everything in a relatively short period of time. And the push has always been graphics. It's always been presentation. It's always been, how can we make this look more and more real? That's how you sold systems. Like, it's not pretend it wasn't. Like, we've all cared about that to a certain degree. But it's just like, brother, I boot up my Dreamcast just as much as I do my PS5. Like, I still love going back and looking at those games, and part of the appeal for me is just like, kind of like I was saying before, I like seeing a thing where you can just tell this was molded by people, and you kind of like see the story of what it took to make this happen just kind of in front of you, where the more realistic games start to look, you start to lose a bit of that. Not that they don't have their merits, but I think it's worth it to go back and like, not even just what the remake of 1, like go back to the original like PS1 Saturn Resident Evil and kind of see what was going on there. If you really hate yourself, boot up Sweet Home and go crazy. I actually do have like a homebrew copy of that. I do need to sit down and play that. I just know that game's really difficult. But it's just...
Yeah, I mean, I feel that like just they got to try the classics, because again, with the analog option that was introduced technically in Resident Evil 2 on the N64, that was really kind of a brilliant thing to do, because then it gave you 2 gameplay options. And once people discovered that, a lot of the naysayers were like, oh my god, this game is actually really good. I get why people like this now, and a lot of those naysayers that came in during RE4, 5, and 6 and all that kind of stuff, they turned around. They're like, no, this game's great. I can't believe we waited this long to play this. And it was quite a while, to be honest, before, because that game came out in 2002. We didn't get it till 2016.
Yeah.
So as long as people are just willing to try it, and you know what, the thing, and I say this too, if you don't like it, that's fine. Just give it a try. Don't trash something that you haven't tried.
And that's my thing too, is I'm just like, like there are a lot of video games out there, and not all the time in the world to play them. But especially for like a franchise that you already enjoy, like why not just kind of see where it got its legs, like kind of see where things began. You don't have to play literally every critically acclaimed game out there. You're gonna drive yourself insane. But for like Resident Evil, if you played like the remakes and you play like the new stuff, and it really does something for you, take a little time to just kind of like see its history. And like engage with it, like really give it a shot.
Yeah, you get to grow with it, because that was like, for me personally, I started when these games, I think it was about like 9 years old when these games came out, or 8 years old, I think. And, for me, just that experience of watching the series grow from system to system, or just even new entries on the same system, is truly incredible. It's like one of the best things about Resident Evil, that you can like really look forward to seeing that when you play the game. But for guys like me, I was there at the beginning and it was great.
Yeah, that's I've got some franchises like that where I'm just like, oh, I got to see like so and so kind of like grow and figure itself out and stuff like that. I wanted to say Sonic, but I feel like the growth of that has been more like sort of exploding from the inside and doing its best to stay like duct taped together as a franchise. So maybe not the best example, but there are things out there where you get to kind of like just see the progression of it. Okay, no, better example. Digimon. Like, I've been covering the Digimon franchise on my channel, and going through these games from title to title and just kind of seeing like how these ideas evolved. It's especially cool going from like Digimon World 1, you fast forward all the way to something like Next Order and just kind of see like, man, how much time has passed, and like what lessons were learned, what lessons were unlearned. Like, hey, like maybe there's some of the stuff from the old age we could maybe try to recapture that we lost thinking that it was too archaic. It's cool. It's cool going back and just kind of seeing the process a little bit. But you also, I feel, it can even come to appreciate and understand the newer stuff more if you understand what it's being built on.
That's a very good way to put it, honestly.
Yeah, it's just like there are aspects of Resident Evil 2 Remake that like I think I enjoyed a bit more after having gotten to play, the original. Same with 3. I enjoy them almost as like completely separate experiences, where I'm just like, oh, this is cool. This is how they adapted this concept. This is how they did this. 3 is a little bit of an anomaly. I enjoy the remake quite a bit, but to me, that is the most like, this is one of those crazy, like, really fun movies I would have rented from Movie Gallery and ate pizza watching one night on a weekend. Not, like, top billing or anything for me, but man, was it a blast while I was there. But by no means does it replace what that original game was.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's things that even the remakes, I think, do better. I mean, one of the best examples I give of a great way that 2 is so good is the fact that you can hear Mr. X stomping around that station when you're not even near him. He's like 2 floors above you, and you hear it. Like, stuff like that, that's scary.
It's anxiety-inducing, dude. It's just like, oh, hey. It's that clip of that one show where he's just like, he's in the walls.
Oh yeah, he's in the goddamn wall.
He's in the goddamn walls.
I love that clip so freaking much.
Yeah, it's just like that's the fun part too, right? It's like I really enjoy how insane they got with like the different forms of Nemesis in 3 Remake, and just like the unrecognizable monstrosity that he becomes by the end of it. Is a ton of fun. Were some things lost? Yeah, like Claire Route B doesn't really exist in the same way in the remake. You know, and then there's like huge chunks out of 3 that are missing. I can't speak on 4 though, although I remember from our last conversation, you actually kind of prefer the remake for that one.
I did, yes. Resident Evil 4, like I said, I don't hate it in a way that I think it's a bad game. It's just like I didn't really, because that was the Resident Evil game that changed Resident Evil, and we were never getting, you know, the classic survival horror that we all grew up with back.
I mean, hell, it changed half the industry.
Yeah, it did, and that's the thing I give it credit for. I was like, hey, I might not like it, but it did a lot for this industry, and it gave us games like Dead Space and everything like that, because without Resident Evil 4, Dead Space wouldn't exist. So, you know, there was a lot of stuff that game did really well back in the day, but I just like the remake more better. Some people say it's like a lot darker and it's not as cool because like Leon doesn't even like crack jokes anymore. I'm like, he still cracks jokes, guys, but like, see, what people have to understand is versus the old game and new games, a lot of things that were made back in the day were made as they were with no real clear road plan, where these ones, they've got more of a road plan to take the characters, because in the old days, characters never really got affected by anything. Nothing really spooked them, scared them, or anything else. They were always kind of calm for the most part in a lot of the games they were in. But, you know, this one, RE4 Remake, there's shit everywhere that can kill you. And it's nerve-wracking, but also amazing at the same time.
Yeah, okay. See, I'm looking forward to getting to those ones, like specifically the original and the remake. I want to stream that though, like because I've been sitting on a GameCube copy of Resi 4 for the longest time. I'm just like, I want to play this shit in order, and I want to stream it to kind of have that first-hand experience. That's like the first chronologically I haven't played, but I do want to stream like 2 and 3 first. Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like, I feel like with something like 4 too, kind of like what we were talking about with the fandom culture of it, it's hard to talk about 4. I've noticed, as an outsider looking in, I've noticed it's difficult to talk about Resident Evil 4 and have any form of pushback without the entire armada of Resident Evil fandom coming down at you for attacking their baby. People are very...
So you cut out right there for a second. What was that?
Oh, did I? Sorry, that was all just to say, people are very protective of Resident Evil 4, and it's very hard to say anything edgewise about that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true, because people think it's like the greatest game in the world, and it is one of the greatest games of all time, but it does have its flaws, and I think it's important to, like, you know, talk about those flaws and everything. And again, they're not bad. It doesn't make the game a bad thing. It's just, I mean, like that island, oh my god, the end of the original Resident Evil 4, when you leave the castle finally and you get onto that island, that's where, like, universally everybody agrees the island's like the worst part of that game. Aside from like the Krauser fight, which was really good.
I bet the Misfit toys really gave people a hard time. Terrible joke. Yeah, I'm not sure what's in store at the islands, but it was the Krauser fight. One of the things I always heard about with Resident Evil 4 is like they just will throw a QTE in the middle of a cutscene, and if you're just not prepared for it, you're gonna die on the spot. Is that what, like, one of those places they had that?
Oh yeah, Krauser's like whole first fight that you meet him and you're having that knife fight, it's all quick times. And you know, like Krauser will just be taunting Leon or talking to him. He's like, you catch on pretty quick, as expected. As of course you know, like how do you say it? It's like, you and I both know where we come from. And then like he slashes at you. Yeah. So like you're never really ready for it. And that's like why a lot of people didn't like the quick times in those, because they kept dying all the time, because they're trying to, you know, enjoy the story, and they can't because they're gripping their controllers and shit. So I mean, I never had really a big problem with that part, to be honest, because like people are like, oh, it's so, like, it's just like that because like QuickTime events are so overused. I'm like, not by the time that game came out.
Yeah,
I thought that they were kind of balanced for the most part. I mean, yeah, the giant Salazar robot running from that is ridiculous and stuff, but they still did a really good job with it, because I don't think the game was played with as many quick times that made it a bad game. Like, a lot of people just seem to have that mentality that it's bad,
It's kind of one of those things where it gets like exaggerated over the ages, especially with just internet culture. Like, no, guys, Navi from Ocarina of Time was never that bad. She's a little irritating once or twice, but she's not she's not a bane on your concentration or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. I will say it's funny because I remember hearing about the stuff with like the QTEs just kind of like showing up in the middle of cutscenes for ages. So the first time and so like the fear of that bled into other games. I remember the first time I was playing Snake Eater, there's like one of the times that like Ocelot is just doing his like gun flipping thing, and I'm just like, do I need to like do something? Am I supposed to do something to get out of this? Like, if the boss is using CQC on me, am I doing something wrong if she beats my ass? And then you find out that no, the entire story is about her beating your ass. So
yeah. Yeah, it's just, I mean, I think that just RE4 and like its QuickTime events like kind of like really made a lot of people kind of turned off, and people weren't like really super sold on buying items. Like, there was a merchant that showed up whenever you wanted him. Well, not wanted him, but like he was never too far away is the real thing. And a lot of people just were not really just like happy with the game, but then of course there were a ton of people that were hardcore fans, just really didn't want to play it, but we did anyway, because that's like what we did. We didn't really complain. We just went and formed our own opinions. We didn't like rage bait online, which rage baiting wasn't really a thing back then, but You get what I'm saying.
Yeah. And it's just like I have to remind myself sometimes too, where it's like people do get super up in arms about stuff and people get really aggressive with each other, and there's there's a part of me that's just like, that keeps thinking that that's exclusive to today, and maybe it's worse today than it used to be, but it was always sort of a thing. People were always very loud about this kind of stuff. It's just like, I think we got more voices in the pool now.
This is true.
Yeah. Because it's funny too, where it's just like the legacy of a game will kind of follow it based off of how it was received at the time, and sometimes it takes like going back and with retrospect, like minds will change about it. Resident Evil 4 though, I feel like I always remembered hearing about it as this very divisive game that really split an entire community, and then over time, gradually, I simply heard of it as the darling of the franchise, and it was interesting witnessing that shift. Versus there are some games like 5, where I remember when I was first hearing about that one, everyone talked shit about 5, but nowadays like people have warmed up to it a lot, and like a lot of people are really wanting to go back to that. Are there maybe some elements that Capcom might be questioning how they're going to go back and redo? I don't know, but I think people have overall warmed up to 5. I don't know if that's going to happen for 6, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. 6 is no.
Yeah, like
because 5. Because the thing of it is, like with 5, I get it. It wasn't scary, but like 5 knew what it wanted to be. That's the thing I try to tell everybody. 5 knew what it wanted to be, and it was inspired by Black Hawk Down. They really tried to connect the story of Resident Evil, because if you read the journals along the way and everything else in between, you start realizing, oh shit, like, yeah, there's a lot to this. Like, oh right, like we're finding out more about Umbrella and Spencer and Marcus and what they were doing in Africa, and everything just kind of goes full circle in 5. And to be honest, if the series had ended with 5, I would have been okay with that, because that was a pretty good ending. But
well, that was that definitive. I guess spoilers, but was that like the downfall of Wesker? Because I feel like that's the last game I heard about him being in.
Yep, it was. He's only made guest appearances in other games. So like what happens is, you know, when Chris and Sheva kill Wesker, you know, that was it, because they never built up another villain in the series because it was always Wesker. And in RE5, in the Lost in Nightmares DLC, in the flashback that Wesker has, he kills Spencer. He finds out everything. He finds out that, like, you know, Wesker's part of like the Wesker Children program. Like these kids like were manufactured. They were all supposed to be, you know, like, you know, the best, and like, you know, all this kind of crazy like stuff. All because like Spencer was obsessed with like immortality and becoming a god. And, you know, then Wesker is just like, oh, okay, boom, like just like chest fucks him with his hand and everything and kills him. And literally says he's like, you know, the right to be a god. You arrogant and even to the end. Like, it's just, you know, like that's what it was. And so they did go full circle, because now Spencer's dead. The first time we ever saw Spencer, and he's dead. Yeah. And, you know, so we didn't have a direction for the series really after 5. 6 has a all right plot. It's nothing great, but obviously Jake Mueller is Wesker's son, so there's something to do with that. And then after 6 ends, they don't do anything with him. So you're just like, oh, okay, so...
Do you think it was because the game was poorly received and they were just kind of like, all right, well, let's sweep this guy under the rug?
I think that could have been a thing. But again, this goes back to what I said earlier, that Capcom has a really hard time reusing characters for something and bringing them back.
Yeah.
And the way Revelations 2 ended, and the big revelations that you find out, like I said, I won't spoil it for you. I won't spoil it for anybody that hasn't played it, because shockingly, a lot of people have not played Rev 2. But you find out some things in that when that game ends. And you realize there's some things that are still out in the world now. And you're just like, fuck, the audience knows it, but the characters don't. And it's like damn, like what are they gonna do now? Like, this is gonna be great. And Revelations 2 was literally like 13 years ago now, and they've never redone anything. So like, something that happened in that game is prominent to the world of Resident Evil and has not been touched. So I think that like some games, yes, they will get that better treatment later on, because Resident Evil fans started realizing that what 5 was too. Plus, when people play it co-op, it's amazing. What was it? The streamer that I know, her name's Emmy on Twitch. She just played Resident Evil 5 last night for the first time.
Okay.
Funny enough, she plays on a lot of original hardware when she streams, and she did like a little like, you know, like how she felt about it at the end of the game, and she didn't really like the gameplay or something like that. It was like the controls or something, or like, no, she didn't really like the solo stuff. And I told her before she played, it's like, well, dude, like, I'll help you if you need help. I will join you for a RE5 stream, because I know that game like the back of my hand. Yeah. And she said thanks, so like she didn't need it because she actually wanted to play it solo. And I think that's kind of the problem for a lot of people, why they didn't like 5, because yeah, the drawback to 5, its campaign is butt when you're by yourself. You're really missing out on the jokes and the wackiness and the craziness of having a partner with you. Like if like I said, if anybody checks out the channels I mentioned earlier, the Road Network, watch any playthrough of RE5 that we've done on that channel, or any gameplay that involves all of us being there of one game. We'll make it hilarious. If it's a game that everybody hates, we'll make it funny somehow. But that was the beauty of 5, is that, like, you know, its co-op is kind of what saved the game. But later games that like aren't that well received, and what's being left out, and games that were highly regarded as great games and scored well and sold well, are just kind of in Capcom's basement again. So there's just no real clear roadmap, and God knows what's going to happen in RE9 at this point. And that could be the game that breaks a lot of people. I feel that they're building to something, because this is obviously it's not a spoiler because we've seen it in the trailers, but we're going back to Raccoon City. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, something's got to be, there's got to be a reason Leon's going there. I don't know if Grace is going there with him and stuff like that, but, you know, he's going, and you're going back to a city that everybody thought was nuked, and there's a whole big discourse. So if anybody like listens to this, let me give it to you guys straight on how this works. because everybody's like thing is like, well, they nuked Raccoon City. Like, how could it still be standing? We saw the buildings get destroyed and everything. It's like, guys, when the original Resident Evil 3 happened, they didn't have a roadmap for this, because there has been so many producers and directors and writers and everything that have worked on these series that are no longer with the company. So there was no real clear roadmap for a lot of stuff. And then they're like, well, look at the remake of 3. They still vaporized the entire place. It was like, yes, but again, they can just retcon it. Yeah. That part, like, when you're seeing the story, the place get bombed, yeah, it gets bombed, but like parts of the city survive. And that's the way you got to accept it, because they probably didn't think they were ever going to bring a character back here. Again, we still don't even know the story to, like, because the thing about, like, the reason why I'm actually super excited for 9, and I'm going to be streaming the holy living hell out of that, because I have not streamed in 2 weeks and I'm going through streaming withdrawals. Because like, people were going into streams of people playing Resident Evil and spoiling RE9. So and I found out, like, if you're like a part of like a community like me, people know I'm on Monroe, people were supposedly going to big streamers and stuff like that, or streamers that are with a channel and they have their side stuff. They were going to them and like dropping the bombs of what happened. Now, thankfully, I've avoided it.
Oh, like, Jesus,
my buddy
like,
from
get
Andy,
a life. Like, come on.
Yeah. My buddy Andy from Biohazard Declassified, he got the whole game spoiled. He was streaming Resident Evil, and guy came in and just spoiled the whole damn thing for him, and he's pissed still to today. But
I would be too.
Yeah, this is a big deal, because like I don't know if I talked about this earlier in the review. You can't get a physical copy of this game anywhere anymore.
Yeah,
it's all sold out. I think we can talk about that. So this is definitely a game that they've put a lot of heart and effort into, and I think, and from what all the word I'm hearing about, like, review wise, it's great. Like, it's awesome. But I don't, like I said, I don't think it's going to be a bad game, and I just think some bad stuff's going to happen. I think they're going to do stuff in this that they've never really done before, and that's kind of like the thing we want in our games. We want them to do things differently. Staying the same for stuff is fine, especially if it's a good formula, because I think that the original Resident Evil formula, like what we had with like 1, 2, and 3, could have kept going for a couple more years. But ultimately, yeah, like these games are, some of them get the kind of the meh reception at the beginning, and then years later they change, and then RE9's coming out, and I think everybody's just gonna love 9. I've got people messaging me all the time. They're like, dude, like, you're with Road, do you know anything about like what's going on with the game? And I'm like, whoa, no, I don't want no spoilers about anything. And I mean, we got people that they'll say like that, oh yeah, I know something, and it's just like, I don't care, I don't want to know. I don't like spoilers. I want to play this game and be shocked when it happens, because apparently, and I didn't know this, a lot of things were getting spoiled in the RE4 remake, which I guess that because it is a very faithful remake, but you can still spoil it, I guess, because there were things that were differently changed. But I remember, what do you call it there? I remember when I was playing RE4 remake and for the first time, and I beat it. And did you play RE4 remake yet?
I have not played either version of 4.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a part where like Leon gives like the most like 80s action hero quip, and it's so funny because I'm friends with the guy who plays Leon. I texted him and I was like, dude, this was your Die Hard moment, wasn't it? And he's like, it felt like that when I was doing the motion capture. It felt like it. And that was, and like I was super happy because like he's a big fan of like action movies. I am a big fan of action movies and stuff. But it's like these games are just great. Like this franchise means a lot to people because there's a lot of franchises that get ruined. And Capcom, don't get me wrong, they did go through a very dark period with these games, but they bounced back really well. And in a world, I feel, where a lot of companies are ruining the chances for great games, I'm glad companies like Capcom are still making the games that they do, and they've treated the fans right. I think they realize that now, where a lot of other companies still have not understood that, like what Sony did to Blue Point Games recently, and what Microsoft is doing with Xbox and AI and all that stuff. I think that I'm very happy that Capcom is back, and hell, even Konami to some extent, they're really trying to win people back. They're putting it out there.
Yeah, they came to play ball. They've got a lot under their wing right now.
Yeah, So and it's like I always say, you have to have competition. And I think that, I mean, obviously Resident Evil and Silent Hill are two very different types of horror.
Yeah.
Silent Hill is psychological horror where Resident Evil is survival horror. So it's different, but you still want that crowd to come play. It's like, hey, you like survival horror. How do you like getting tortured mentally? And you don't really fight and shoot as much. You have to kind of run and plan and everything. It's things like that. And that's what builds it. And if you don't have competition as a company and you're kind of on top, you get lazy. I mean, Microsoft, without them around, if they really don't bring back games and really focus on what makes the industry great, Sony will essentially win, but then they won't do anything. Sony's just gonna be like, yeah, we don't have to do anything now. We're the only game in town.
Yeah. It's competition definitely is like very, very crucial to the industry. I mean, to really any industry, and having that incentive to keep pushing yourself and to keep like delivering something and like really putting in that effort. You're not going to have that if you don't have like a different avenue that your customer base is going to be going to. And I actually kind of wanted to touch on that because we were talking about just like how passionate fans are of this franchise and just how much people care about it and kind of that dark period there. And there was a time when it was just like, it kind of felt like the only reliable place Resident Evil fans could look to for the stuff that they were looking for was Resident Evil fans. And you, in particular, have some history in that particular avenue.
What do you mean?
Well, we kind of touched on it before, but you've worked on some fan films and stuff like that in the past, which I personally would say sort of the step up from the cinematic endeavors of the Resident Evil franchise that we've seen up to this point. I suppose if you wanted to just kind of share a little bit of just sort of like your work, like as a fan, just kind of like bringing your passion for this series, a lot of the things that really matter to you to life. Maybe it was during a period where you felt like it wasn't being delivered, or maybe it was just because, hell, it would be fun.
Yeah, so, oh man, like this is, so I think a lot of people, like I'm trying to like word this the right way so I don't piss people off.
Yeah.
I have never really felt that Resident Evil was properly taken care of by Hollywood. You got guys like Paul W.S. Anderson and Mila Jovovich who did those original films, and they were their own thing essentially. I liked the first film. I actually like over time appreciated the first film because it didn't even feel like a Resident Evil game. The only reason why you knew it was a Resident Evil game because of three things: Umbrella, zombies, and the T-virus. Oh, four things. Sorry. The liquor. That's it.
Sure.
That's the only reason why you knew. Oh, and 5, Raccoon City. That's it. And so, first movie again, early 2000s. You let a lot of it slide. It was just another line in adaptations that didn't work. Financially, they fucking made money though. Like that franchise grossed so much money because people just like stupid action, I guess. But the sequel, I actually enjoyed the sequel. I think that they casted the people the right way, but they still kind of missed the mark. And then as time went on, they just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And a lot of people get mad at me for saying that. It's like, look, if you like it, that's cool. But you have to understand when it's bad, it's bad. I mean, trust me, I like bad things, but I will admit that they're bad, but I get joy out of it. But like, Paul W.S. Anderson couldn't even keep his own stories right half the time. Couldn't like characters would just disappear, and everybody's like, what the fuck? Where are these characters? You finally brought the characters from the games in. Where the fuck are they?
Yeah.
And it was just all about his wife. So we all, for years, just kind of got burned. The best way that I can say it for anything Resident Evil that got put into live action, like that Netflix, that horrible live action Netflix series, or the Welcome to Raccoon City movie, and of course the original Resident Evil films, it's like being with an abusive ex that says they're going to change.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to give them a chance. You've been through a lot. You love what like who they are, but there's just something that they're not doing. They're just saying it, not doing it, and then after a while, people you got to wake up and realize this isn't it. So we kind of felt like that. So me and the team, we got together, and Andrew Salo, who was our director, he's one of our road team members. He wanted to do The Keeper's Diary. And what The Keeper's Diary is, it is a very famous adaptation of a journal entry in the original Resident Evil, where you're in a room, and in the original Resident Evil, you go to check the journal, and the door to the closet swings open, and a zombie comes out. And so you read the thing afterwards, and it's a whole story about the Keeper and a couple of the other guys from the mansion, and you see that there was an accident in the lab, and that everything starts going south very slowly, and you find out that the Keeper is infected. Now, he doesn't know he's infected because they don't know. And the thing is, I don't even think that they knew, like, the Keeper knew what the virus was at the time. I don't know if or something like that, but he worked on things. So, like, we added some really interesting moments that weren't in the Keeper's Diary originally, and people loved it. And it was just this great moment. And we have the original Chris Redfield come back. His name is Charlie Kraslowski. He came back to play the Keeper, but the Keeper actually had no speaking roles when he was on screen. It was all voiceover. So for the voiceover, we got Joe White, who is the voice actor for Chris Redfield in the Resident Evil GameCube remake. So we really just wanted to make this a thing for fans, and everybody went nuts because it was faithful. Sure, there was some things that were changed, but nothing was really lost in said changes, I feel. And people just really enjoyed what we did. It's like I said, it's called The Keeper's Diary. It was completely fan-funded, and we thank our fans for helping us make that dream come true, because they wanted to see it, and we did it.
And that's the cool thing too, where it's just like you're legitimately expanding on something that fans from the franchise know and enjoy, and you're kind of giving this like extra insight while also paying service to the history of the franchise, to the history of people that were involved in its creation, like the actors and stuff, like just kind of giving them another hurrah under that. Which is super cool. It means so much more than just being like, oh yeah, here's quote-unquote Lisa Trevor, itchy tasty, here's some keys jingling in front of you. Like, it's more than that. It was deeper, and it's like that sort of thing is super cool. And I am going to put a link in the description to the Keeper's Diary fan film in the description for this video.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Like, we always love when people are going around and discovering that, because it still makes its rounds. People find it out and everything like that, and it's always great that people really love it. And I will plug something else if that's okay.
By all means.
There is a fan film, and we are debuting it next month at the beginning of the month in Vegas. It's going to be an absolute, like, all out for every Resident Evil fan there ever was. We're not just talking OG fans. We're throwing in stuff from as like what we can. Like, I don't want to spoil anything and stuff like that, because again, the movie's not out yet. But
yeah,
it is absolutely insane what we've done. So there is a trailer for it, so I can talk a little bit about it. We got 4 of the original actors from Resident Evil 1, the old black and white opening scene from Resident Evil back in 1996. We found them all, and they are reprising their roles 30 years later. And it's funny because the guy who plays Barry, I think Greg is, I think he's like 70. I think he's like in his early 70s or late 60s. But he's a bull, man. He's a beast. He's strong, and he's still got it. But they all came back to be these characters for like one final go. We really wanted to make something nice for the fans. That, like, there's a shadow from the past that comes back. There's a lot that these characters have all gone through. We kind of explored that in the film a little bit. We've got, if you like certain aspects of like later games, and if you like stuff about the action-oriented stuff about Resident Evil, and you like the horror stuff, we've got it. There's a lot that we put together for this, and I really wish I could tell like all the other people that are on board on this. Because fans are going to go, oh my fucking God, like, this is so, like, we've put a lot of love into this, and this is going to be that film, like as you said, like we wanted to make a film that surpassed The Keeper's Diary, because that was just a short film. This is a film. I think it's got like a runtime of like, I think we hit 2 hours with it.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, I think we did, because I was there for a majority of the filming. I was there for like a week and 3 days, and for the rest of the time I couldn't, because I had to get back and take care of my dad, because my dad's friend that was watching him and stuff like that, he wasn't sure how long he could stay with my dad to look after him. And I was like, yeah, no, I'll only go for this long and stuff. And it just, if you're a Resident Evil fan, you're really gonna love what we've created here. You're really gonna love like what we did, because we wanted to make sure that this was for not just us but fans, and we don't want to like exclude, because like that's the other like thing too. A lot of gaming companies this day, they don't think of their what do you call it there? They don't think of their older fans as much, unfortunately. That's kind of an issue, because and it's sad. It's sad that they don't think about their fans, because they just focus on the new fans that are coming in, because the new fans are what's shaping the franchise. Because I remember a while back, one of the producers or directors of the newer Zelda games was saying something like, they got asked a question, and that question was, "Are you ever going to go back? Are you ever going to go back to the older Zelda games? Are you ever going to go back and go to that style for the fans again?" And they said they have no plans to do so, which means they're never going to do it, most likely, until things change. That's a shame, because I like a lot of the older Zelda games and how they played. I'm not talking about like N64 Majora's Mask era. I'm talking like Super Nintendo, Game Boy Color Advance, that kind of era and stuff. I always loved those ones. But
yeah,
so we just wanted to really do a film that was for everybody. You can't make everybody happy, but I think with what we've done with this film, we've really kind of nailed that. Like, we've really given something for everyone.
And that's like something that's worth like really striving for too. And it's the sort of thing that just kind of like bridges the gap a little bit, and can be like, hey, here's this new thing, like for you old heads out there, like hey, here's an extra piece of candy for you at the end of this tunnel here. For the kids, sit down, like let Uncle Tony tell you a story. Like let's go on a journey here a little bit. And that's at the same time, it's also is just like the process of a bunch of people that just have a lot of passion and a lot of love for this series, just getting together and doing something. Like, there's something to that.
Yeah, no, like there's no greater feeling than getting people together for a project like that. I mean, as a photographer, I get a lot of people together to do a lot of different projects. Like I've told you this before, but I've got a big Final Fantasy X group shoot this year. Everybody's coming to Boston for it. It's going to be fantastic. We've got a full group, and it's amazing. It has been absolutely amazing to do that. But to be on that Resident Evil set, I brought in a lot of people that I knew. Because our head stunt coordinator, he is actually our Red Ranger from the other TV show that I'm a part of, the web series Power Rangers Unworthy, and I knew that he'd be the right man for the job. And he's not really. Funny thing is, when he got the job for Power Rangers, he's never seen Power Rangers before. He's a lot younger than I am and stuff, so he didn't know. So, but he did his research when he joined and stuff like that. And Resident Evil was the same way. He did his research because he had never really played Resident Evil and everything, so he really like wanted to know, and like I gave him some tips and stuff, and it just it was great to have him there, a buddy that I trusted, that I knew, because I told my guys, I told our director, I was like, if you want this done right, hire him, because he's got a full team that's ready to go as well. Because we had Charlie and Eric who plays Wesker, they're in their like late 50s, so we didn't want them getting hurt. So like some of the big fight scene stuff, we had the stunt people, the stunt doubles for. And funny enough, nobody got hurt except me on set, which was hilarious. Well, and here's the other thing: I didn't even get involved in like a fight scene or anything. What happened was we were all doing a big group shoot for the stunt team. And the actors, and I wanted to get in on it because I brought them all in. I just wanted to be with them, and I was doing all the photos for them. So I went in front and I laid down. I put my hand in a cactus because, mind you, we were filming out in the Utah desert.
Yeah.
And I put my hand in this cactus, and I'm like, and they took the picture, and our medical guy, who was also our gun guy as well, he was our everyman. This guy like knew how to do Reiki therapy. This guy knew how to cook, like he could catch like wild like deer and cook it for you and shit like that. It was hilarious. He's a great guy. So he brings over this gaffer's tape, and I'm like, that's gonna hurt like a bitch, isn't it? He's like, actually, you're not gonna feel a thing. And he places on it and just rips it off like a band-aid. And I'm like, oh, do it again. Like, there was nothing. I felt nothing from it. He was right. Gaffer's tape is a lot different when it comes to like that and duct tape. But yeah, it was just really an experience to like bring people together like that. And again, there was passion, because Hollywood doesn't have passion for a lot of things. And Constantine Films or Screen Gems, whichever the one is like the owner of the IP for the Resident Evil movies, they miss the mark consistently. And I think it's kind of like with Sony and the Spider-Man movies they keep putting out that are really fucking crap. They have a clause in their contract. If they don't put out a new Spider-Man movie every year or two or something like that, they lose Sony will lose the license to Spider-Man.
Hence,
and I think that's kind of the same thing that they did with the Resident Evil franchise. I think that they have to keep making something in order for it, even if it flops, you know.
Yeah, so hence like Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter, so on and so forth.
Morbius.
Yeah, oh, that one too. God damn it.
Kraven the Hunter. Like, oh god. Like,
how the hell does that creep keep getting work? I swear to God. Like, I just wanted a Tron 3. Damn it. That's a rant for another day.
Dude. I mean, it's the power of Hollywood, man. The guy's in a cult, and he's probably got his own Epstein list and everything of people and shit. I guarantee you, he's got an island, and he's a cult leader.
I know, it's insane. I'm losing my goddamn mind. I'm just like, how does he? He's got something on people that he has to. It's the only explanation.
Gotta be.
It's crazy. I'm just like, I think he's Skeletor in that new Masters of the Universe movie. I mean,
remember, your nostalgia is gone, and everything you once knew has been left back in the 80s. Until we meet again.
At least you won't be able to see his face in that one.
I hope. I mean, I know that Skeletor did have a face at one point, according to He-Man lore. Because if you look at like an old He-Man show back on like Toonami or Cartoon Network back in like the early 2000s, and they showed Skeletor's face essentially melting off. So he did have a face at one point. So I think we might see it, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be 85% CGI skull face, hopefully.
Yeah. Hey, so I should probably say I have no connection to like He-Man Masters of the Universe. I've never seen literally any of it.
Okay.
I saw the trailer though, and I was just like, oh, this looks cute. I was just like, this looks like something I would have liked when I was like 12, which I think is basically what it's supposed to be. So, good on them. I also respect the restraint it probably took to not put that one song in the trailer. You know, I can't think of the name of the song right now, but you know the one from the meme.
Oh my God! Yes, no, I can't. I know what you're talking about now. I can't remember the name.
It's called What's Up. It's called What's Up. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Four non-blondes
would have been the easiest thing in the world for them to do, but they didn't. So
I guarantee you that's going to be in that movie somewhere. Like someone's gonna be listening to like an old like cassette from the 80s, and they're gonna have like a headset on, and that's gonna be in there. I swear.
They did. I remember they played it in. Did you see that most recent animated Ninja Turtles movie, the Mutant Mayhem?
Yep, I did.
I loved it. I thought it was a ton of fun. I was just like, oh my God. I'm a huge
Turtles guy. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought they were going to fuck it up, but I thought that was really great.
What the hell's going on? Like, Seth Rogen is just out here just, like, keeping all this... The father of the Muppets now, apparently, like, he's just been going to town just, like, with project after project. I didn't know he had it in him.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the right idea for these things. I mean, TMNT's still kind of on fire and everything. I mean, and apparently now we're being told by the co-creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that the last Ronin movie isn't canceled yet. So I'm like, thank God.
Ooh,
I mean, okay. They didn't want to start like the Turtles like movie, like because I guess like when I think the hands shifted or something like that. Like I think someone else owns TMNT now, but like it's still in the hands of somebody. Like I don't remember exactly, but it was said that they didn't really want to start doing the movies right now on a rated R film, despite the fact they already had Mutant Mayhem and like the next one's the next one's coming out. I think this year. I think it's coming out.
Oh, okay.
But I think they just like want to focus on more stuff like that because TMNT is still what it's always been. It's about marketing and selling toys.
Yeah.
So
and especially
like that's the thing. So like I don't know what's gonna happen, but I really do hope that The Last Ronin doesn't get canceled because that was one of the best TMNT story arcs I ever read.
Yeah, so I don't know much about that one, but I do know that it would be like, hey, when you get your kids like all excited about the Ninja Turtles, like a new generation of kiddos getting into this, it'd be kind of hard to sell older audiences on a popcorn flick that starts with Raphael getting his head caved in with a hammer. But it's a versatile franchise, so it's just like I don't know. I feel like there'll always be a place for, especially from what I know about like how the Ninja Turtles franchise got started, and like what those original comics were. I don't think that it was a big gore fest or anything, but from my understanding, the original Ninja Turtles comics was grittier than what we got with like the 80s cartoon.
Yeah, they were. It was very gritty and stuff. I don't know why they turned it into what they did, like a children's cartoon show. But if it wasn't for that, the Turtles might not be what they are today. Well, so
yeah, to quote a wise old man, it was the style at the time. So
we used to wear onions on our belt. Was the style at the time.
Well, that's like everything was just toy commercials and everything, and it's crazy to see what franchises out of that era. This isn't even about Resident Evil anymore, but like I love Transformers, and that was definitely like a product of that era, and just the way cartoons were big toy commercials and stuff like that. Then and now that's a franchise that like has exploded into its own like huge thing, and I have loved so many projects that came out of that. The current comic run is fantastic. I'm still just on my hands and knees, like, please just launch the Cybertron games on Steam or something, like bring them back just so people could play those damn games. The War for Cybertron, the Fall for Cybertron, right? Yeah, I don't even need remakes, just like relist them on Steam. That's all I need, just let people play them.
I mean, it could be possible. I mean, it's funny because I have the Fall of Cybertron on Steam, but I've got War for Cybertron on the PS3.
Yeah. I would love to see those lobbies open back up to do some like multiplayer with War for Cybertron. As I tell people all the time, as I work at a used game store, and I love just recommending stuff to people. And I love recommending War for Cybertron and just being like, imagine Gears of War, but you turn into a truck. That's basically what it was. It was great. That devastation.
Like, damn, brother, I'm sold. Give me that game.
Yeah,
we don't have
it. Oh man, that's Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I took us way off track there, but
no, it's fine. Like I always love talking about like stuff like that and everything. But yeah, like for Resident Evil, I mean, it's just there is so much to love about that series. To be honest, like every game has something truly special. Even ones like Resident Evil 0, which were very critically hated by a lot of people, and trust me, a lot of the hate is very valid to that game. Mm-hmm. But it was also special because it was very experimental, and it was the last of its kind. No other Resident Evil game ever got made like that one ever again. That fixed camera angles were gone. It went right to RE4 after, because Remake and Zero sold pretty poorly because they were made for the GameCube, which at the time wasn't selling that great. It wasn't the hottest thing to sell for, but all of them have their golden moments. I mean, Resident Evil 3, the original, is my all-time favorite because it kind of just improves a little bit on what the games that came before it had. And you're on the streets more now. You've got a enemy that stalks you constantly, and not just like a slow walk, like your mother catching you in the kitchen at midnight, like getting cookies or something like that. No, like this, like the nemesis, he's chasing you down and going through walls and stuff. I mean, Mr. X did too, but you know, it's just being able to explore an entire city of full of the dead was absolutely amazing to me. And they actually, the other thing Resident Evil did very well that a lot of people don't talk about anymore is the S.D. Perry novels. They were novelizations of the games, and there were 2 of the books that were original stories, and they're awesome. I mean, I loved them. I mean, because like I said, every book is essentially based off the game except for the 2 that they had, and there was one where it was called Columbine Cove, where Umbrella had a lab up in Maine, and it was underneath a lighthouse. And they were doing experiments, and this guy was working on like a new variant of like the virus and stuff, and it was a crazy story. And Rebecca's actually the star of that one. And then you find out that like the stars just aren't based in Raccoon City like they are. The stars are all around the United States. There's different stars members and divisions in different towns and cities. And they like this. The S.D. Perry really explored on that, and they gave reason to like why like these characters gave a damn about these murders that were happening. Not just because they're cops and they got to solve these murders, but Jill Valentine, like, you know, her reason for wanting to stop the cannibal attacks and everything was a really heartbreaking one. So if anybody's like enjoys reading, definitely pick up the S.D. Perry novels. They're really good, and they give you 2 new stories where characters do a crossover. The things we always wanted in the games, now we got those in those novels. And those were like back in the 2000s, early 2000s, those were written too. So I used to read them in school all the time when I didn't want to work.
yeah, there you go. Oh man, that's awesome. I somehow didn't even think about there being like novelizations and stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, they actually made novelizations of what do you call it there? Of the Paul W.S. Anderson movies, and to be honest, those were better than the movies.
Oh, I believe it. I've read a couple of novelizations for movies where it's just like, I want to say sometimes they actually will take like they'll be based off like an earlier script, so they'll have like stuff that ended up like getting cut from the final product and stuff like that. So it's always cool, like kind of like seeing that, and like again we were talking about before, it's just fun seeing the process. But sometimes it really does just kind of like help flesh something out, where it's just like, hey, you got to trim stuff down for screen time, but in a novelization you have a lot more leeway with pacing, as long as your prose is good. Like you can pretty much sell whatever length of time it takes to get through that story.
Yeah,
that is pretty neat, and that's like and of course today, even if we're looking for the more like traditional Resident Evil gameplay style, we are very fortunate to live in the age that we do when it comes to indie titles, and just like the amount of games that are out there where people are just taking that design ethos and just doing something great with it. I've not played it yet, but by God, like the amount of praise I hear for Crow Country. Oh yeah. Oh my God, that because like when I first saw that game, my brain went, huh, it is giving me Digimon World 1 vibes. Like the graphics kind of remind me of that. Yeah, like that heavy pre-rendered, like on the animation sprites and stuff. Yep. Yeah, I love that style so much, dude. It was interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen videos from a guy named Neryl. No. So, typically speaking, I think he's a really interesting guy. I think that he articulates himself very well when it comes to the topics that he speaks on, and he's done a few videos that I found really interesting. Some talking about like some of the newer Star Wars movies, some talking about like Majora's Mask 3D. I think that was the one that the Majora's Mask 3D one was the one that like really got him some attention. And he talks pretty extensively about emulation, about fan projects and what it's like to go in and make like fan-made HD texture packs for stuff like that. It's cool seeing the behind-the-scenes stuff. His most recent video has people a lot more divided, and I gotta say I agree. It's the most I have ever disagreed with him on a video. Now, are people being more of an asshole than they need to be about it? Yes, but I had a hard time kind of meeting him where he was at with a lot of his takes when it came to why a lot of games are trying to recapture older hardware. I don't know that it was entirely his intent, but the way that it came off made it kind of sound like he was brushing it all away as just chasing nostalgia. And to me, I disagree. I think that there is merit to the craft there that is worth looking into beyond just trying to recapture something. And I think it kind of gets back into what we were talking about how it is still worth it to go back and re-experience those old games and stuff like that. Man, you're a man of the craft. You've put stuff together, and I think I'd be willing to bet money that you've come to a similar conclusion as me, that some of the greatest things that can happen for a project are things you never intended, and they just accidentally occur, and you just kind of roll with it. It's part of the creation process, and just kind of like dealing with the terrain of the creative field, and watching letting certain blemishes stay can add a level of real texture to something that you can't get if you have complete control over it. And I think that's something I enjoy about older games and about how this stuff was crafted with older hardware. And I think we have the tools and we have the ability to recapture these accidental atmospheres that were a result of more primitive tools. And maybe it's a little too dismissive to just say, oh, we're only going for this because we're just trying to recapture, a nostalgic era, and maybe it's a little dismissive of the artistic benefits that might have in and of itself.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right, because it's not just about capturing the nostalgia. We just want like nice things, and let's face it, like it's not just nostalgia. It's because everyone's like, oh, everybody wants something. Everybody hates modern everything and doesn't like anything from the old days. I'm like, that's not true.
Yeah. If
you really look at a lot of things, like I always bring this up. Looney Tunes is one of the best examples. Like Looney Tunes, Tex Avery, Merry Melodies, Chuck Jones, all those old classics that we grew up on as kids, watching them wherever they aired, especially like Cartoon Network. When that was like one of the first things that like began Cartoon Network, was those kind of shows, before they started airing like all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons and everything. Those were beloved by generations of people, just like how the Three Stooges are timeless. Like 100 years later, they're still making people laugh, and it's about the quality of what those gave you throughout the years. And gaming did the same thing. And it's not about chasing the nostalgia. It's about wanting what's right. Because a lot of these gaming companies, they don't know what to do anymore. I mean, yeah. They don't truly understand. And Capcom kind of went that way especially with Resident Evil 6, because Resident Evil 6 was modeled after what do you call it there? What the hell was that one called? Resident Evil 6, was modeled after like Call of Duty. Because Call of Duty was like one of the biggest games next to Minecraft back then when RE6 came out. So it became kind of like that, and they lost the focus. Yeah. And they tried to bring in the Call of Duty people. And the Call of Duty people don't want to play Resident Evil like that, And so it's not that we're chasing the nostalgia. We just want to create fun things. And a lot of companies in this day and age don't allow that, because gaming is now mainstream. So it's more about a business than it ever was before. And when you don't give the fans what they want, and generally your fan base does know, you don't make money, and then you piss people off. I mean, granted, best example, Konami didn't listen to fans for years about Silent Hill, and then they just went pure pachinko. Yeah. And now they're just like, crap, we need to win everybody back. And Capcom did the same thing. They had a whole Road to Redemption tour in many ways. Like that game, RE7 saved Capcom. And then it was like, oh my God, this is like what we love. Like, we're getting scared by games again. Let's go. And then Capcom's bringing out, the Mega Man collection, the Mega Man X collection. Capcom is giving back to those who built their companies. And like we talked about earlier, the people in charge of Zelda don't necessarily want anything to do with the old style of Zelda, because they're like, well, why are we going to change this if it works like it does right here? And I'll say this, like, if you were to go back and make the games like that, they'll still sell, and they won't cost you as much money to make. Whereas, like, obviously there is a big difference between a game like the remake of Link's Awakening that they did, which I never really liked because that art style pissed me off. And I say that because that's my favorite Zelda game of all time, the original one on the Game Boy. But you got a smaller game like that probably took way less time to develop than Tears of the Kingdom and everything. So, like I said, I just think that you've got to treat your people right, your customers right, because if you don't, that well is going to dry up. People will because we live in a world now where people get wind about one thing that's being done on a movie, and everybody's like, oh, they're using AI for this? Fuck no! Oh, it's like, oh my, they're using AI in this to bring back Vincent Price? Oh, fuck no, we're not doing that. And that's the thing, they want to go the cheap route instead of going the right route. And if you don't respect your people, then you're going to lose money. And again, Capcom was one of the biggest examples of that. And Resident Evil, 6, it made them a ton of money. Like, people got to remember, RE6, for as polarizing as it was, and how much as a lot of people did not like that game for all the right reasons in many ways, that game still sold stupid amounts. Because again, early internet kind of thing, 2012. Things aren't spread as rampant as they were before. I mean, they kind of were, but not to the degree with what we've got in this day and age.
Yeah. Plus, it's just like the suits. The suits knew the trends, and the trends do make money, but that doesn't. Success does not equate quality. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. It's and that's the other big shame with it too, is like, especially when we're looking at the larger market and stuff, I think a part of what complicates it is the amount of hands that you're moving this stuff through. Because obviously, you've got people working at Capcom, you've got people working at Konami, you've got people that work at Activision on Call of Duty that are genuine artists and have true passion for what they're doing, but they adhere to what the big boys upstairs are telling them to do, and those are the guys that are lacking the insight of what makes this stuff actually special, like, the actual heart at the matter, and not just an intellectual property. It's part of the reason I had an issue with, like, Metroid Prime 4. I've complained about that game a few times. I don't hate it, but it is like, it definitely feels like a victim of how can we get this franchise to be more popular? How can we get this franchise to expand in a way where it feels closer to its contemporaries and less like its own individual franchise, where it's an intellectual property and not a, series of games, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And so it's good to see, like, hey, we can chase trends, we can, like, go after all of these things that are just popular in the moment, or we can settle down, take a stance, and be like, this is what this franchise is about, this is what makes this special, this is why it's a standout product among everything else in this sea of constantly flowing content. Let's focus on what makes this what it is, not focus on just turning this into every other franchise around it.
I agree. And also, I 100% agree with you on what, like, your takes on Metroid Dread. Metroid Prime 4, sorry. Mm-hmm. I remember, like, you tweeting about it and stuff, and I was like, why are you booing this man? He's right. You made a lot of great points to that game. And I mean, I liked it, but there were its issues. I mean, I criticized it for the whole amiibo thing and music thing, and how they could have actually made that music thing a lot better. And everybody was so fucking mad at me. I'm just like, guys, I'm giving you the better option for this. Like, this is a way better option to do it,
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, man, it really feels like there's no easy way to win with a lot of people. The best that we can do is to just kind of like approach it from a standpoint of like, portray what we care about and why we love stuff, and people can listen to us or don't, but the right people that are genuinely like try to meet us where we're at will actually like pay attention to what we're saying and not just what they want to take it as.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's all we can really hope for at this point, to be honest. And like I said, I mean, things change, things change with a lot of these companies generally when they start losing money, but hey, whatever works. I mean, like, you got to lose a bit in order for these CEOs to understand what it is. Because again, it's like why I miss the classic days of gaming. I really do.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like you said too. It's just like the trends catch up, and especially with the indie market being as strong as it is right now, it's just like, hey man, if you're not delivering the thing, what was that Gabe Newell said? It was like piracy is a consequence of poor deliverance and marketing or something like that. He said it a lot more eloquently. That's just
it was like, along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, and this isn't one-to-one, because obviously indie games being inspired is in no ways piracy, but I think you know what I mean, where it's just like, hey man, you guys have a privilege with these intellectual properties, not a right, and if you're not delivering with them, people are going to start looking elsewhere, because there are a lot of other people that do understand what makes it special, and they're going to start making what you aren't.
Yeah. Like, no one stays at the top forever. I mean, I even look at Nintendo. I mean, Nintendo, like, they could just keep flopping all they want if they wanted to and stuff. They still got money out the butt. But even so, I mean, I retweeted the other day. Somebody did someone's making an actual Star Fox. It's not Star Fox, but Star Fox inspired. Same, like animals, like animalistic characters, flying spaceships and everything. And they got a barrel roll and stuff. And I'm like, dude, these guys get it. Nintendo, hire them. Like, come on.
Yeah. Nintendo, hire this man.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like one of the reasons why I approved of what Capcom did. So if I'm remembering the story correctly, Resident Evil 2 Remake wasn't announced yet. And there was a team out there that was making their own Resident Evil 2 Remake. And they were using the assets from like Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles, Darkside Chronicles, and if I remember correctly, I think they used assets from Outbreak too, because Outbreak essentially used a lot of those assets from Umbrella Darkside Chronicles and Umbrella Chronicles. Yeah, Umbrella Chronicles had that stuff from Outbreak. But anyway, they were making it, and they got a cease and desist from Capcom, and it's like, oh shit! And it turns out those guys, if I remember this correctly, some of them were brought on to work on RE2 Remake. And if I'm remembering that right, that makes sense, because a lot of the reasons why I think RE2 did as good as it did was because people that worked on it weren't just the guys that worked on it 20 years ago, but people who grew up with it as kids 20 years ago. Now they're adults and working in the industry and have that chance. And I think that's very important. Final Fantasy Remake did the same thing. A bunch of people that worked on Final Fantasy VII Remake were fans of the game when they were kids.
Yeah.
So, that's why it and I feel that it worked out in that manner for them.
It is,
to be honest.
It is interesting too, because like, I guess kind of getting back into the Zelda discussion, like I'm kind of hoping that they're not married to the idea that they'll never go back to like traditional 3D Zelda. At the very least, with like older 2D stuff, like we still get stuff like, the Link's Awakening remake and Echoes of Wisdom. So like, there's a bit of a precedent for that in this current age. But when we're talking about the open world games, it's just like, I personally love Tears of the Kingdom. I really desperately need the next Zelda game to not be like that. And I remember reading up on Eiji Aonuma was talking about how they brought a bunch of new blood in to work on Breath of the Wild when they were first developing it. and is partially to get like fresh new ideas and just kind of see like where were some new directions that they could go with the franchise, and how are they going to kind of go back to basics. And I want to say that one of their mentalities was just kind of like, go back to the NES Zelda, go back to the foundation, and just kind of like, what direction can we take this in? And they were Aonuma was approached by a couple of these younger guys, and they were just like, hey, why do we do this and this and this way? And sometimes there would be a reason, and Eiji Aonuma would be like, oh, well, this is why this is structured like this is why this. But every once in a while, they would ask him something and be like, hey, why does every 3D Zelda game do this? And the best answer he could come up with is, well, because the other ones did that. And then when that was the answer, they were just like, okay, let's try a new avenue and just see if something else works. It's not a perfect strategy. I do think it led to a couple of really special games, but I do hope that it's just like, I don't want them to lose sight too much of those older titles. And like, I do, as a defender of the new open world Zeldas, I do still want to see respect paid to the previous generation of those games, and maybe in the next time we get to see something that feels a little bit closer to that, because the open world stuff was good, but I feel like you've done that now, and I don't know how much further you could take that concept.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, when it comes right down to it, for like Zelda games, I think it's okay to change the style after a while.
Yeah.
I think it's like it keeps it fresh, because Zelda did honestly do that. Like, I mean, you look at Zelda 1 to Zelda 2, incredibly different. A lot of people say Zelda 2 is a bad game. I don't really ever think it was a bad game. I just think it's better than totally Zelda 1. Different from the original.
It's a better game than Zelda 1. I'll die on that hill.
The hill you're gonna get, you will die on that, because they will kill you for that. I won't. I'll defend you. But like, because I mean, I grew up playing the original one with my cousins. We loved it.
Yeah.
Because we were drawing out maps and everything, like how the world looked and stuff. We loved that. And then
dude, pulling out the graph paper for like Zelda 1 and just like charting stuff out. Yeah.
Yep, we did that, and we Zelda 2 was the same thing, but like we were drawing the floors instead. Like what they look like, and like, going down the elevator. So, okay, so we're going down this elevator, so this is what this floor looks like. Let's sketch it as we go along.
Yeah.
And everything. I remember my cousins like sketching as I was playing it, or vice versa. And then, if we went to the left, we'd start sketching what it looked like on the left and stuff. And it was great. And then obviously it kind of went back a little bit, and it became, like Link to the Past and my favorite one, Link's Awakening. It became that kind of style again. And then you had, what was it? Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Yeah. And in many ways, the same style kind of continued for, the next few games, like Wind Waker and Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess. So, they did do these things for a while, and it worked. Well, maybe not Skyward Sword. That was a bit hated by everybody, it seems. But
Skyward Sword is a I think that one got a little bit too much hate in some areas, but there are other areas where I'm just like, that game is the reason I was happy to see them try something else, because it was taking like the old 3D Zelda formula and just drowning itself in it, and I was just like, all right, it's time to switch things up. Let's do something a little bit different, because this is I'm thoroughly convinced that the only reason people remember Skyward Sword fondly is because of the story, and maybe one or two dungeons.
I mean, canonically, that's the first Zelda in the timeline, if I remember correctly, right?
And I've got a bone to pick with that, but that's a rant for another day. All I'll say is part of the reason I love Twilight, as somebody that used to defend the the lore and like the backstory and like the timelines established by Hyrule Historia. Part of the reason I loved Tears of the Kingdom was because it just stopped trying. It was just like, what? Try to tie everything together in a perfect bow has not worked, because we do not care enough about, and Nintendo was real with themselves, and they were just like, we're never going to get to a point where we actually switch up the status quo. So these stories can't matter in a real way, so we're just gonna tell a new story.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I liked about Tears of the Kingdom. Breath of the Wild was proof to me that it was just like none of the shit in Skyward Sword mattered. I hate demise as a concept with a burning fucking passion. The whole curse being the reason they keep reincarnating. God, fuck off with it. Anyway, no, not doing this tonight, and not the night for that. But yeah, no, I agree with you.
Definitely. But yeah, as far as like Resident Evil goes in its future, I mean, I wanted to like kind of talk about that a little bit before we wrap this up. But I really want to know, like, because obviously by the time this goes out, I still don't have my hands on the game. I still got a pre-order for my PS5, and I made a meme. I put it on Twitter the other day, where it was Negan in front of everybody in The Walking Dead when he first comes out. And he's doing the eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and there's like a row of all the survivors, and it was like numbers of saying how much each of that game was, and it's like me trying to make deciding which game to delete to make room for Resident Evil 9, because like that game's like 73 fucking gigs.
Oh god,
which is, yeah, I know, right? That's insane. So, but it's true because like there's no memory on those. But I mean, like a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't be talking about the future and stuff like that. It's like, dude, you always got to be thinking about the future. I'm not ungrateful that we're getting a game now. I'm happy we are getting this game. But it's like, you know, if this seems to be starting to connect more to the world, does that mean these writers actually get it? Have they been listening to the fans? Do they know what we want? Because a lot of Japanese devs don't really bother with YouTube videos. They don't really watch them about people talking about their games.
Sure.
The thing that like works for them specifically, especially a company like Capcom, I know this for a fact, is surveys. So if they put out surveys, fill them out, because I've filled them out for a long time. And I remember when they talked about bringing, this was like a couple of years ago, they were like, yeah, like what other collections would you like to see? Click off in the box down below which ones you'd like to see. And then I'm just like, all of them. Like, bring your library back to fucking life. And they did. Like, they did with the Marvel vs. Capcom collections, the Darkstalker stuff, Power Stone, friggin' Plasma Sword, Star Gladiator, all those classics came back. And so, you know, I really hope that like they understand that fans really want these characters to be characters, and we want to see them go through stuff. And I mean, from what we've seen so far with Leon, he's going through some shit, but he's been the best character that they've given in these remakes a completely different, not like different like in a bad way, but like he has so much more emotion than he did in the original games, where he was just kind of a wisecracker the whole time. You know, he just cracked jokes and it was dry humor, that kind of stuff. But in this one, he's damaged.
Yeah,
like in all the they were showing that like how, in like movies like Vendetta, that it was starting to get to him. I actually think even Damnation was the one that where it really started getting to him. But he was like drinking more and shit, and I think it's really incredible. I think it's been really incredible what they've done with his character, and I really hope other characters get that treatment, because like I have this feeling that Resident Evil isn't going to end anytime soon. And that whole thing of introducing Wesker and Mother Miranda as like being friends, and that there's other threats out there in the world, I think that kind of perfectly establishes that there are, like I said, other threats in the world. I mean, we saw that with the mold. The mold was like in the Baker house, and then it was also, you know, in like the village and everything like that. So I would love to see them kind of retire the older characters, because most of them are in their 50s.
Yeah.
Barry, I think, canonically is almost, if not in his early 70s. So I would just really like to see them like wrap some stuff up, some characters, and then start doing the new stuff. Because a lot of people don't like the new characters in Resident Evil because the old characters are kind of getting pushed aside, and then, you know, you don't really hear from those new characters again, or they get, you know, get the axe.
It's a shame too, because it's just like Leon was a new character at one point. Like, we got to be able to branch out every once in a while.
Yeah, well, so like the thing about that is, right, here's the thing about branching out and adding new characters. The series is hitting its 30th anniversary next month in March, and that's kind of the issue, is that you have all these old characters you're not doing anything with. And new characters are fine, but the collective thought of a lot of the fans is, hey, can we just finish off these characters? Like, either kill them off, give them that ride into the sunset, give them the chance to retire.
Give them
closure. Can we do that so we can kind of go moving forward, knowing that there's nothing else behind, like the past is in the past, and there's nothing behind us that will keep us wanting to go back for those characters, whether they be dead or retired or what have you. I think that's like the best way to go about it.
Yeah, because people have been asking about Rebecca for a very long time, and that's because they haven't done anything with her since the GameCube. So,
that's very true.
Yeah, no, I see that. That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I guess that all of that is to say, hey, thankfully, we seem to be at a good point in the franchise right now, and kind of going into this new release, we'll have to just sort of see where Requiem kind of places us for the path going forward, and you know, establishing what we can expect for the rest of the franchise from here on out. That being said, it might be time to go ahead and just kind of wrap things up for tonight. But Tony, I super appreciate you hopping on to do this with me a second time. This time with everybody's voices actually recorded. Is there anything that you would like to plug or to throw out there? Obviously, we're going to be putting the you know, the fan film in the description, as well as the trailer for the new one coming out.
Yeah, like I said, if you guys want to follow me, my YouTube channel is called New to Retro Reviews, and like I said, I review new and retro games. I do a lot of game talks on there, and I have my own podcast on there as well, and a couple of different series on there. So there's always something going on and something happening, and I put up a lot of YouTube shorts. People really like that stuff too, especially of my streams that I do, and a lot of hot takes in gaming and stuff like that too is on that as well. And yeah, make sure to follow the Residents of Evil on YouTube. And for all those who want to know more about the film Resurrection we talked about, it will be fully released on the actual 30th anniversary of Resident Evil, which I believe is March 22nd. So we will be launching that. Originally, we were going to do it as kind of an episodic thing, break it down into episodes. But now it's just like we took a vote and everybody's like, no, we want it all as a movie. So it's going to be a movie near the end of next month, and we really appreciate your love and support. And if you guys really do enjoy it, make sure to let the actors know as well, because they work their butts off at this as well.
Hell yeah, we'll definitely be sending people that way. Remember that Patreon supporters on any paid tier will get this podcast episode 1 week early, and it will go live on the Ramble the Rocks YouTube channel 1 week later. Thank you everybody so much for listening today. Thank you, Tony, for joining me. And we will see you next mission.